Good morning.
Good
Or
morning.
Morning.
morning. Nice to see everybody, sort of. There you are. Oh, look who snuck in. Vonnie Fast. Hey, Vonnie.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thanks for
I,
doing this.
I thought you were just threatening.
Not at
You
all.
know Wade, don't you?
What's that?
You know Wade, don't you?
I do. Hi, Wade.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
great to be on. Thanks for hosting this.
You're very welcome. So we've got, I think, 60 some people in the room so far. We're going to get started in a minute or two. Just wanted to give you a short introduction. And I know Wade has a very lengthy introduction that he's going to go into. It'll probably take about half an hour um, to tell you all about himself. But I can tell you a little bit. He's a good friend. He's a broker owner of LePage Kelowna. He's a coach. He's a mentor. He does it all, and he's been one of the top recruiters in the country for many years. He also has a platform called Agent Boost, which is a coaching platform, which is amazing. And so, Wade, I'm going to give the floor to you. Everyone's here to listen to your wisdom and hopefully lay out some good business plans. Hopefully, everybody's got their workbook and we're ready to go. Welcome, Wade. Oh, you're muted. Are you unmuted? You don't seem to be muted on my dashboard. Crystal?
Not showing as muted on mine.
Hello, hello, hello.
There you are.
Oh, sorry, everybody. My apologies. Technical difficulties there. The microphone just packed it in.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, welcome.
Welcome. Sorry about that, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for having me. So, quick introduction for those of you that have not heard me present before. Thank you for having me, Alex, and appreciate the time. And I'm hoping to spend a couple hours with you guys this morning and spend some time on just giving you some idea of planning and a different take business planning. For some of you, you're like, oh man, like another business planning session, same old thing, kind of boring and this and that. So I've been spending time switching it up for everybody, and I'm going to spend time today more on the why behind the how. So instead of spending a couple hours on, hey, do this and this is how you do this and that, I want to spend more time on, I guess, the aha factor for everybody on each of the pages is to say, okay, if you do this, this is how this will benefit you personally and professionally. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm just spending more time on the why behind the how. You've probably all done business planning sessions. You've all taken sessions like this and that. And I don't know if you've read this book, Alex, but there's a book called The Little Voice Mastery by Blair Singer. Blair Singer wrote a book on little voice mastery. And the book is an interesting take, everybody, because it's talking about that little voice that's in our subconscious, and it's the one that every time I'll say something today, your little voice will go, "Oh, well, so what? And what's in it for me? And so what? And what's in it for me?" And that voice goes on and on, or "Oh, how long is this going to take? And why are we even here?" That's the voice I'm talking about. So I'm going to spend time answering that voice for the next 2 hours for everybody and be able to answer it like, okay, well, that's an interesting concept, but so what? And what's in it for me? And keep that in mind when you're dealing with your clients and your customers, and that whenever we share something or whenever we say something, the human brain always says in the back in the subconscious, well, so what? And what's in it for me? So I'm going to answer that little voice and spend some time saying, okay, well, if you do this, this is how this will change things and benefit you you in that. So hoping to do that. But a little bit of background, in the 80s, I was attending university. I was studying to be a high school band teacher. So my background is my mom's a teacher, my dad's in real estate, my brother's a teacher, my sister teacher. So families of teachers. My mom's a piano teacher, music teacher. So I grew
Mute
up.
again.
I'm muted again.
You're back again.
Back again. Sorry. So when I was in my fifth birthday, I didn't get a stick and a puck and a skates. I got music and piano books. But I'm not bitter, and the therapy's going well, and things are well. So I ended up getting into the music realm of things, and I was studying music, and I saw in Vancouver at UBC, I was in performance, and I saw an ad in the newspaper that said a university student could make $10,000 in a summer, and if you know the life of a musician, it's a labor of love. It's not a labor of fortune in that, unless you're U2 or somebody big like Taylor Swift or something like that. But the reality was is that I saw this ad and I thought, oh, I could use that money in that. So I went downtown to Vancouver, applied for this job, and there's this placement there, and they interviewed us and that, and I was all excited because I got a job offer. So my job offer was in with Colliers, and so Colliers. I didn't know at the time was going to train us for the week. So we trained in their office and we studied for a week, and we spent 5 hours a day memorizing a 2.5 hour presentation for our clients. And the presentation, Alex, was for selling encyclopedias. And so I sold encyclopedias for Colliers, my first university job. And I thought, oh, this is all exciting. I'm learning my first presentation. You've got all the presentation scripts and you've got all the models and everything in that. And I'm all excited. And yet I think, okay, well, I'm going to use this now. And we're going to stay in Vancouver. Well, no. What they do is they put all of our team members into a vehicle with the team leader, and we headed to Saskatchewan. So we're in Saskatchewan, you guys, for 4 months in the summer. So I am in Kindersley, Kerrobert, Adirondach, all of these. You know, you're like, look on one side of the sign and says, thank you for visiting. You look at the back side and it says, thanks for coming and that. And so I'm here and I'm knocking on 300 doors a night, you guys. So 300 doors a night and trying to sell a set of encyclopedias for $1,999.99. So back in the 80s, that was like $1 million for a set of books, right? To a Canadian farmer in Saskatchewan. So I'm there and I've been told where to go and how to get there more times than you could ever imagine in that. And I actually find that I'm pretty good at this and I actually like this. So I remember going to a locust covered infested phone booth and picking up the phone and calling home and saying to mom and dad, hey, I think I found my calling. I think this is it. I'm really good at this, at the sales side of things, and this is what I want to do in that. So I said to my mom, I'm so sorry. I don't think I'm going to be a high school band teacher. I'm going to go and get my real estate license and get into real estate. So long story short, in 1992, over 30 years ago, went, got my license, started up in sales, and had the privilege and honor of working with my dad in the first 8 years. We were partners together. My dad sold furniture, appliances, carpet, you name it. My dad was the sales professional in that, finally got into real estate in his 40s. So we partnered together, and from that experience, I authored a book called The Lazy Realtor. So the book here is a tribute to all the lessons that I learned from my dad and all those early years in real estate and that, and things that I wish I would have known and people would have told me when I first started. So this is available on Amazon, and you can download it and take a look at it. But just a great tribute to one of my mentors and one of the greatest teachers of my life was my dad. And then from that, I got into the brokeraging side of things, and then I started. It's just over 10 years now. It's a 10-year anniversary. I started contributing to a blog. So this is the blog called Agents Boost. And I have done for 10 years now, every week, Wednesday's Words of Wisdom. Say that 15,000 times, Wade Webb's Wednesday's Words of Wisdom. And so every Wednesday, I have been posting for 10 consecutive years on Agents Boost blog, and just my way of giving back to the industry. So every Wednesday, I post something new, put it out there to the real estate world, and contribute there. So if you go to Agents Boost, there's literally tons and tons of free coaching content, you guys. So if you're new to the industry, or if you need a reminder, if you're looking for the new, what's trending or what's happening in that, every Wednesday there's a new post, there's webinar videos there's all kinds of content. And it's just my way of giving back to the industry and doing that. So I coach for myself and coach with Coach Ken International. Ken Goodfellow and I are good close friends and coach together with him and his wife Shirley. Awesome people, and just one of the things that I enjoy doing to give back to the industry and that, and just help agents survive in this industry and thrive in this industry. So a little bit of background on me, and over 3 decades in the business and that. So I just wanted to share where, how I relate and how I got asked to do this. So, thank you, Alex, for having me. I hope you all know that you have one of the premier brokers of the country, and that first class human being. Alex, thank you, man. Love you, bro. And you guys don't take that for granted. He's a pro, and you guys have a first class leader and a first class organization. And a shout out to Crystal and all the staff members. There was quite a bit of preparation for you guys for this, and they did a lot of stat work for me and putting things together. So thank you, Crystal, and thank you for the team leaders for putting the materials together for today to make this possible. So without further ado, let's get into our session. So the first thing I want to start off with is just asking ourselves a question, and just asking a question that I think we fear the most, and that is that, truth. And a lot of us don't want to hear the truth or discover the truth, but the truth will set us free. And my first question is, and you can write this question down, is what am I doing now that I was doing before? So what am I doing now that I was doing before? So one of my favorite coaching sessions with a veteran agent or somebody that's in a plateau or somebody that's in a funk is I'll say, hey, can you just make a list of the 5 or 10 activities, just the 5 or 10 activities that worked for you, that you did well, and you did well when you first started? Can you just make a list of those 5 or 10 activities? And then I ask them this next question: how many of those 5 or 10 activities are you still doing? And the session's usually over, right? So one of the things that we find is that, hey, I did this and I used to do this and this worked and this, that. And for some strange, crazy reason, we just end up, well, I'm third year now, man. I don't have to do that anymore. Like, I've arrived. I'm kind of a big deal. I'm in third year real estate now. And the first and second year I had to do that stuff and that, but I don't have to do that anymore. And the reality is that if you're truthful with yourself and you asked yourself all those activities and asked yourself, am I still doing that? The reality is that you need to get back to doing those things that worked for you and do the things more that worked for you, instead of just trying to find the new shiny silver bullet, the shiny penny all the time. And look at that. So my last question is that how many of you saw people that were doing things well this year, that had a good year, had a better year than you? And my point is when you see those people, all you have to remind yourself is all they are doing is what you used to do. All they're doing to make them successful is they're doing what you used to do, right? And you're like, right? And I hope that just helps you, is to remind you is that do the things that worked for you. Keep doing them over and over again. Don't get bored. Don't get in that position where you've arrived or you're entitled in that. It's just a reminder that if you look at it, what are the things that are working and what are the things that I did that worked in that, and just do more of those things, because that's all the people that you're seeing that's having success is doing. They're just doing the things that you used to do. That's all they're doing, because success is not that complicated, and it's those specific activities that work for you, and don't get stuck not getting caught thinking that you can do something different and do something easier and better than that. It's those things repeated over and over again. So hopefully that helps you out. This is in your books. If you look in your book and your pages on page 2 in your guys' business planning, this is one of my favorite visuals of just explaining the Pareto theory, or the 80-20 rule. And it's a book called The Oz Principle, and like the Wizard of Oz. And in this book, there's this concept that there's this invisible line. If everybody will just allow me to just say, there's this invisible line out there. And if you look at that line, you have the 20% that are above that line, and you have the 80% that are below that line. And this isn't a visual for you to feel shame or judgment in that. This is just a tool for you to create awareness, if I may. So looking to create awareness that you can understand that when you're getting caught, what I say, living below the line or above that line. So my poor children, they've had this concept kind of presented to them on a daily basis. So my kids are like, hey, we're driving to school. And I'm like, hey, are we living below the line or above the line? We're like, below the line. And where do we live? We live above the line. And so they're like, okay, great. And if you look at this, if you're living above the line, it's four simple things that people that are in that above the line concept, that 20%, they have a clear vision. They have a why. They have a vision. They know what it is that they want and what drives them and what's their purpose, if I may. And then when things happen to them, they don't sit there and ponder on what happened. They look at ownership and they ask themselves three questions. Hey, what did I just learn? And what did I do? What am I going to do different and what's next? So, right. So when things happen and life happens and you're under attack in that, instead of just going below that line, they look at it and say, okay, well, this is a learning opportunity. What did I learn from this? What am I going to do different and what's next? And then they look at and they're seeking solutions instead of just festering on in that problem and that issue, right? They're not stuck in that. So they're looking for solutions and they're looking at how to break through that and get past that. And then they're implementers or executors, right? They just get stuff done. I don't know if there's any other Gary Vaynerchuk fans here, but Gary's mantra is just get stuff done, right? And GSD and that. So they take action. They're looking and always seeking for solutions. They're looking for what did I learn? What did I do different? What's next? And they have a why and a purpose and a clear vision of what they want to do in that. Those that are stuck below the line, and trust me, I've had days where I'm living that below the line and it's not above the line all the time in that, but they're more of a victim-based kind of mindset, right? So they're in a blame and denial and excuse mode. They're, passively, not actively and proactively waiting for things to happen. They don't realize that this makes outgoing and incoming calls and they're in that victim there. So I've just used this analogy because we all have the ability to choose whether we want to be a victor or a victim, if that makes sense, right? And so having that awareness is that, things aren't going as well as that, but what am I learning here? What am I doing different? What's next in that? Why do I do what I do in that? Having that purpose in that. So, just a simple tool that can give you that awareness and catch yourself. Whoa, being below the line right now, and I need to step up and be above that line and what it is that they choose. Would everybody agree with me? We all have a choice. We have a choice to be below that line, and we can have a choice to be above that line. We all have that choice. I can't make that choice for you. Alex can't make that choice for you. Like, you have to choose for yourself whether you want to be there or be there, right? And so I encourage you to look at that and just think about that concept and plan for 2025 if I'm being above that line and not being caught below that line. And when I am below that line, choosing to be above that line, if that makes sense to you guys. All right, so we have my background here. We've got this concept on the Oz principle. We've got that question of what it is that I do and what was working and what do I do to do that. And I need to do more of that and stop, feeling that I've arrived and I don't need to do those things, and then keeping that focus on there. It's a crazy statistic, but less than 3% of salespeople actually have a business plan. Less than 3% of people actually have a business plan. So I think Nigo said it the best. Joe Nigo, he said, agents aim for nothing and hit it with incredible accuracy, right? There's no goal, there's no plan. We're just meandering off in the ocean and just floating around here, hoping that things are going to work out and this and that. And so my hope and prayer for you guys is that you'll have a strategic plan, you'll have a direction, you'll have a guidance in that, and use this material to be able to do that. So if you want to make note of this, I have this booklet that Alex has provided for everybody here, this business plan booklet. And it's a big book today, guys, and we're not going to get through all of it and be able to just dive into it. But if you can make note of the following things, I'm going to get you to divide it into 4 sections, Alex, so you can just write this down. Divide it into 4 sections, everyone. So section 1 of the business plan booklet, and it ends and goes up to page 13. So pages 1 to 13 are the first section of the booklet. Okay, and so when I coach everybody and do the business planning with my agents, my coaching clients, we spend 2 weeks on this section 1 to 13. Okay, that's the first section of the business plan. The second section of the business plan goes from page 14 to 17. So 14 to 17 is the second section of the business plan. And then the third section is from 18 to 25. 18 to 25, pages 18 to 25 is the third section. And then the last section is 26 to the remainder of the book. So I use this analogy that this booklet is a bit of an elephant, and how do we eat an elephant? One little piece and one little bite at a time, right? So if you separate this business plan into 4 sections, I remember when my dad and I did business planning, this one thing that he taught me really, really well, and that was how to do a business plan. So November long weekend, we would do a business planning event, retreat. We go away for 2 days, and we literally dive down into this business plan retreat weekend, and we would spend the first day on the first two sections of this business plan booklet, and then the next 2 days on the last two sections of the business plan booklet. And you'd walk away there with a strategic plan and clear focus and what it is that you want to do next year and what did we learn from this year and that. So it just gives you that direction, and it is a big task and a big program, but I encourage you all to break it down into those 4 sections and work at them, a week or 2 at a time, and go there and just break it down so that by the new year, you'll have it all laid out and something that's written. And the reason why I remind you that it's written is that you want to have a resource to go back to and refer to frequently. Does that make sense? So when you have the written business plan, you can go back to it and have a resource to refer to it and just check in how we're doing and check on it and maybe tweak it and see if we're doing it and if it's working for us and that. So put it into 4 sections, have it clearly written out and create that resource. And then you have a reference and you have something to go back to and a reminder to keep you on track and keep you on the program and stay on track, if that helps everybody. All right, so don't become a prisoner of your own reality. Set yourself free by creating a life worth living. Would you agree that most of us want to do something greater and be a part of something? So if you saw my post this past week in that this is a vehicle, the business is a vehicle for me to create incredible experiences with the incredible people in my life, right? So I know that if I help other people, that I get in return the ability to be able to do and create a life worth living. And I'm sure that most of you are in this industry because you wanted to create a life worth living and not something that's dictating how you live, but something that can dictate where you and how you can be and live a life better than what you're hoping for. So the first thing I want to do is the reality check pages. So if you look at the reality check pages on page number 4, you guys, the biggest thing here is that you can write these questions down. They're not in this booklet, but they're just a reality check and checking in on the year in the past. So first question for all of us is that what did I learn about myself and about my business in 2024? What did I learn about myself and about my business in 2024? What were the lessons this year? What were your lessons this year? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about the business? What did you learn about the industry, the economy? What did you learn and what were the lessons in 2024? That makes sense. So just reflecting and taking time to dive into those questions and really think, like, what did I learn about myself this past year? What did I learn about the business? What did I learn about the industry? What did I learn about the economy? Like, what were the lessons? And that goes back to that Oz principle. What did I learn this year? Where were the lessons this year? And what were the reminders for myself and for my business and for the economy and for what happened? Would you all agree that things kind of changed on us the last year or so, hey? It's a little bit different these days than it was a couple years ago. And for those of you that haven't been in it as long as myself and that, like, welcome to normal. Welcome to the normal real estate world, right? And for those of you that started in not normal, well, don't panic. This is just normal, right? And so, you look at it and say, this is normal. This is what we do in that. And so what did I learn? What are the take and the lessons in that from 2024? And then the next question I'm going to ask you to ask yourself is, what do I need to do different in 25? So what do I need to do different in 25? Let's look and see what I've learned. Now I want to take what I learned and I want to act on that and implement that. And what am I going to do different in 2025 that I wasn't doing in 2024? Does that make sense? Right? So it's implementation and action of that reality check and implementing what did I learn and what do I need to do different in 2025? And then what did I do that worked that I need to start doing again? Like, what did I do that worked that I need to start doing again? Right? So taking the time to reflect and going through these questions and answering these questions. If you look at these questions here, do I feel like I have a strategy or a plan? Yes, no, or somewhat. Am I living a life that, in a business that's designed by default or by chance, or am I dealing it by a design and a plan? Do I live and work and do I have a work-life balance and am I proactive with my business or am I passive and reactive? Right? Do I continue to think, act, and behave? If I do that, will I continue to be happy with what I'm doing and how I'm doing my business? And that, do I implement and execute the ideas that I learned? And how many of you can agree with this concept? We all probably know enough. We just need to do what we already know and have learned. That'd be a fair comment, right? If we're really honest with ourselves, we've learned a lot, and I've been shared and taught a lot. And I think it's start doing and implementing and executing what we already learned and what we already done. That's probably part of the biggest challenge we have is that, let's implement those things that we've already learned and that we've already been shared and taught in that and get those things into play and into action. All right. Are you well organized and focused? Right? Do you get things done? Do you have satisfied with the amount of time that you spent with your family, work-life balance? Are you satisfied with your income? Does your income dictate your activities, or does your activities dictate and you just earn what you need to create that opportunity for yourselves? Are you passionate about what it is you do? If you ask my wife, there's two things that I love most in the world: the Montreal Canadiens and the real estate deal. Yes, therapy's going well. Yes, we're in a growth and moment to that. You Leaf fans, yes, enjoy your time, or Ottawa fans, enjoy your time, and that. But the reality is that I love this industry and I love what I do, and I'm blessed to be able to find what it is that we do and that I love, and that, and I don't take that for granted. And so I hope that you can find what it is that you love about this, what the work in that, and love the parts of it, and then find someone else and something else to do the other parts that you don't like to do for you. Does that make sense? Right? And leverage and that. So I have a mentor and a coach, Les Hewitt. He wrote the book, The Power of Focus. Anybody read The Power of Focus by Les Hewitt, Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen? So Les was a coach of mine. And Les said, "Hey, Wade, like, what are the things you love to do the most? And let's get to that point where you're doing those 3 or 4 things daily, and then let's find someone else or something else to do the rest for you." And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, Les. That'll never happen. I don't know if anybody else is the president of the Control Freak Club. CEO and president here, right? So I believe that no one else and nothing else could do something better than I can. Are you crazy, Les? Like, that's just preposterous, right? Like, not a chance, right? So I've got to do it. And so Les is like, no, Wade, like, someone else or something else doing something 75% as good as Wade would do it is fantastic, because Wade isn't doing it. I'll repeat that. Someone else or something else doing it 75% as good as Wade does it is fantastic, because Wade's not doing it. Wade's doing what he loves to do and what he's in his sweet spot and his gift and his talents and his passions and that. And the only person that knows that it's being done 75% as good as me, this guy. Right? I'm the only person that knows that it's only being done 75% as good as what I do. And so for those of you that need to just to think about that, it's like, it will be okay. It will be okay if you find someone else or something to do it 75% as good as you, because then you're able to free yourself up and leverage and do what you love most in doing that. And then last thing is that, what are your strengths and your talents? Right? What are your strengths and your talent? What are my gifts? What are my strengths? What are my talent? What do my clients love most about what I do for them? Right? And then I should just spend my day doing more of those things, those gifts and those talents and those strengths. Does that make sense? Right? I don't know if you ever grew up in the school system like I did, where you're like, "Hey, Wade, like, you're not very good at math." And I'm like, "Yep, you're right." But I was always told that if I spent more time at math, I would go from sucking at math to just sort of only sucking at math, right? And I'm like, and reinforcing that, no one ever reminded me, like, "Hey, you're really good at volleyball," or "Hey, you're really good at playing the piano," or "Hey, you're really good at that and that." So I'm just here to share with you that leverage, and just remind yourself of what it is that you enjoy and do in that, and spend more time doing that. If you spent your day doing things that you're good at, that your strengths and your talents and your gifts and that, how fun would the day in this business be like? And how fun would this business be if you just focused on that and spent it in your sweet spot, in that lane that you enjoy being the most, and then finding something else or someone else to be able to come with you alongside and be able to take care of the rest of it. So a little bit of a reality check and a little bit of questions in there, and figuring out, what do I need to do different in 25? What did I learn? What's next? And what do I need to implement and execute and start doing that I've already known I need to do, and I've already learned to do it, but I need to do it and actually implement and execute it. So that's that section on the reality check. If you turn to the next page, everybody, the market is a skills-based market now, right? Would you agree there's no turkeys flying in the eye of a hurricane any longer? It's a skills-based business now. So this next tool for you is the assessment section. So I usually call this page 5 the gap analysis. This is the gap analysis, or the gap analysis assessment. So when you get a chance, everybody, you take this page, and what you're looking for is you're looking for what you're really good at in this business, and you're looking at what you could maybe stay away from or maybe leverage and get someone else or something else to do for you. Does that make sense, everybody? And then there may be a few opportunities here that you could focus on in 2025 when you see that. So if you sit here and you look at this gap analysis tool, 1 being poor, 10 being excellent or very good, right? Like, what are your objection handling skills? What are your stall skills, your condition skills? How are your skills when it comes to handling objections? How are your skills when it comes to handling negotiations? What are your closing skills like, 1 or 10? What are your converting to appointment skills like? What are your buyer counseling skills like? What are your seller counseling skills? How many people would agree that you actually have to counsel and spend time, right? And keep in contact with sellers now because they're not selling in 26 hours any longer, right? You actually have to do reporting. You actually have to check in on them. Buyers, you actually have to do a check-in on them because they're just sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what's going to happen and what's coming on next, right? So you need buyer counseling skills, seller counseling skills. Next one is, what are your questioning skills? I'm always reminded that the world's greatest conversationalist is somebody who says little or nothing. They're the ones that ask the best qualifying questions. They're the ones that ask the best thought-provoking, engaging questions. Would everybody agree that it's not by chance that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth and we're designed to ask more questions and listen more and be quiet and be quiet more? And so what are my questioning skills? And trust me, I can talk a dog off the meat wagon. If anybody spent any time with me, Alex will say know this that I don't lack for words and chitter chatter and that. But the reality is, good salespeople are the best listeners, the best question askers. They're like, when you get somebody to say to you, "Man, that's a really good question," and they pull in and they lean in. That's what the best questioners are and the best skills are in sales. Listing appointment skills. What are your appointment skills like? Buyer appointment skills. How many of you have a pre-appointment package for a buyer and a seller? Do you have an actual materials that you share with people before you've even met with them in person? Think about that. Is that something that you could use in 2025? Are more people interviewing more agents for their buying opportunities and their selling opportunities? Do you have a tool like a pre-listing appointment package or a pre-seller package or a pre-buyer package that you're setting in advance to sell your value proposition? One of the words that came up more and more at NAR. NAR is the U.S. real estate conference that I was attending 2 weeks ago in Boston, and the word value proposition came up more and more. And that is that reality is, folks, and you can write the stat down. 86% of people say they would use their agent again. Anybody want to reckon what a guess is the number is that do? 86 said they would. 15% are using their same agent again now. 86% said they would. 15% said they did. So retention and loyalty and being able to keep them is becoming more and more of an issue now. 86% said they would, but 15% said they did or do use their same agent again. That should scare us all. Another stat is a veteran every 5 years, not in communication with the relationships. A veteran every 5 years loses 50% of the relationships every 5 years. 50% of the relationships are choosing to go elsewhere, not because of that they wouldn't go with you. It's because you're not being able to nurture that relationship. Right? It's a crazy statistic. And then for those of you that struggle with this, and I do too, in that there's a 15% attrition rate. 15%. So no matter how good of a job you do, no matter how many Cutco knives you send them, thank you, Vonnie, no matter how many pop-bys you do, no matter what it is and that, we can't control 15% of our relationships, you guys, because they've just stumbled on somebody at a cocktail party, or they've just forgotten about you, or they had a weak moment in that. And let me repeat this, it had nothing to do with you, nothing to do with you. But does it still piss you off and hurt? Yes. But there's this universal principle that 15% of our people are going to make a stupid decision and go elsewhere and forget about us and that, whether we do our things, we need to do that. So the reason for that statistic is that you should be adding, I use this analogy, your relationship is like a bag of lemons. You're losing 15% of your bag of lemons annually, no matter how hard and no matter how good you are. So you need to be bringing in 15% more lemons into that lemonade bag. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? You've got to be proactive in finding new people and bringing in new relationships. Now, you want to bring in new relationships from people that are in your database because cool people hang with cool people and idiots hang with idiots. We get that. So if you can nurture that and build it within that and counteract that 15% attrition, the new agents on this call, I hope you just got excited that 50% of the veterans lose 50% of their clients. They're like, yes. Awesome. All the veterans are sitting here asleep at the wheel. They're like, oh, another business planning session. And the new guy's like, did he just say that 86% would but don't and only 15%? That should rattle all the veterans on the call, and that should excite and invigorate all the rookies and all the first years on this call today, right? It's like opportunity, baby. This is awesome, right? This is opportunity time. All right, so do you have systems? Do you have checklists? Do you have standard operating procedures? Do you have lead gen and a steady lead gen stream? Do you have enough lead funnels? Do you lead convert? Do you change those leads into actual appointments? Do you have follow-up? Do you have a system for follow-up? Do you have work-life balance? Do you leverage? Do you delegate? Do you automate? Do you systemize? Or do you dump? Do you have a weekly action plan, a daily action plan, a monthly action plan? And are you financially living and are you profitable? Profit is a good word, right? Profit is a positive word. Profit is able to live the life that we're wanting to do that, and that's what we're all in here for. So look at this assessment and just gauge where there's opportunities. Don't look at it as a judgment or a critical piece in that. Look at it as say that, hey, this is where I'm really good, and this is what my clients said. And if you're struggling, ask your clients what they love best and what you do best about you when they were working with you. That'd be a fair comment. And then maybe also ask, personal friends that know you well, like, what is it that I do great? What is it that are my gifts? What are my strengths in that? And that just helps you stay in that sweet spot and be able to stay and play on your strengths in that and look at those opportunities. All right. So if you look at the reality check, the whole premise around page 4 was to look and say, what were the lessons this past year? And what did I learn from this past year about myself, about my business, about the economy, about the market, about this business, this industry? What do I need to do different? And what do I need to implement and start doing and do more of in that and look at that and use that document to really get things done and to really remind us of what I learned and what I need to do different. And then this particular tool here is to just analyze and say, this is where I'm good and there I'm strong, and this is where and this is where I'm missing here, and maybe I can spend a little bit of time trying to bring that up a little bit more, or maybe I need to find someone else or something else to be able to do that, right? So take a look at this and see where there's gaps in your business. So whenever I start with a coaching client, I always start here, and we always work more on where we're strong, and then just taking one at a time and seeing if we can bring some of the lower scores back up again. And that. So hopefully you'll find this tool helpful to be able to look at your overall skill set, your overall business, and your overall situation, and be able to analyze and assess where you're strong and where there's an opportunity for some improvement and growth. Are there any questions on those documents? Are there any questions on those tools? Is everybody clear and understand how you can use these gap analysis and use these documents and that to be able to assess and to be able to make a change in your lives professionally and personally in that? Everybody good with those documents? We're good? All right. Excellent. Let's turn to the next one. So in your booklets there's 6, 7, 8, and 9. So pages 6, 7, and 8, 9. We won't go through this, but I'll just quickly explain to you what it is. This is a work-life balance wheel. So if you look at page 9, you'll add up each of these sections and you'll graph on page 9 these different segments. So if you're a Buffini fan, he'll talk about the circles and the 5 areas in your 5 different circles and that. And this is a good example where when you're charting that graph on page 9, that graph is supposed to be looking like a circle, right? If you're really in balance and you've got work-life balance and you're really looking at it, and that, full disclosure, mine looks like an NFL football, right? But it's a growth and opportunity in that. But the reality is it's not supposed to look like the Star of David. It's not supposed to look like a pizza. It's supposed to look like a nice round balanced circle. And you use this as a tool to see and assess where your work-life balance is, and if you're living that ideally, and where there's opportunity where you can spend some time and focus on it. All right. So I'm not going to jump into it and dive into it, but when you spend time, you just add each of the scores and then chart them on the graph and have a look at your wheel and your life assessment and look at that work-life balance and see where you're at. And if there's a nice flow there, or if there's some opportunity where we can really focus on one or two areas this year to make a difference and get that a little bit more round and a little bit more circular in the work-life balance wheel. Right? So I'll let you look at those and work on that. Next section here is culture and core in that. So how many people would love to have a tool that would actually differentiate you from other realtors in your trading market area? How many people would like to have a tool that would set you apart from everybody else there? So the myths are in our industry that all agents are the same. Would you agree? The myths are that all agents do the same thing. They are the same thing. Their marketing plans, their buying plans, all of them are the same. Would that be a fair comment, that that's the myth, that everybody does the same thing? And that, in fact, is the furthest thing from the truth. So this next section here is establishing yourself and differentiating yourself. So I've given you a couple tools here to work with. So the first tool here is core values. Okay. So these are beliefs, philosophies, values, and that. And in a changing, uncertain time, the one thing that came up over and over again that you hear about is that people are going to businesses, products, services, and providers that have good old-fashioned values. Would that be a fair comment? And why do they go to those programs, or why do they go to those places? Because there's security, there's trust, there's the ability to be able to recognize that they've been around and they must be good at what they do. So one of the things here is that you can identify is what are your values and what are your beliefs in that? And would you agree, when you identify what your values are and what your beliefs are, then you're able to attract like-minded individuals to your business and your program. Does that make sense? Right? So when I share the values of our organization and our core values, the agents will say, yeah, that's me. I couldn't agree more. That resonates with me. Then I know that there are people that I know are part of our culture. So you have your business ownership and you want to create that culture. Your base is your values, and that would do it. And then you have your mission statement and your purpose statement. So you have your core values and your vision statement and your purpose statement. So your core values basically are the work environment's engaging, like the alignment with the clients and alignment with the core values in that. So when you take your core values and you take your mission statement and your purpose statement, this is a tool that you can create. So I don't know if anybody in this room knows Sarah, but this is one of my coaching clients. And so you take your core values and you take your mission statement and your purpose statement and you start using it to pull instead of pushing on the consumer. Does that make sense to everybody? So most agents push on the consumers, and not a lot of agents are pulling on them. So when you take the time to identify your core values like Sarah did, and identify what your mission statement is and your purpose statement is, let me just explain the difference between mission and purpose. So your purpose is the heart of your business, and your mission is what it is that you do for them. So the logic side. So there's the feel side and the logic side, and they're two distinct, clear statements that attract and engage people, right? So just a second here. Do you have a question? Is everybody seeing my screen, Alex? I got a chat there, that the screen share. Yeah, you can see that tool there? Okay. Somebody's just missing it. No problem. So
Actually, no, I just see your main screen.
all right. So do you see the tool there? Let's try this again.
No.
That work?
Mission statement, Sarah's.
Yeah, perfect. So this is the visual tool that everybody can create from the core values and from the mission statement and purpose statement. Does that make sense to everybody? So imagine you put this onto your websites, you put this into your social media, put this into your email signature, you put this into your presentations, your feature sheets, your packages and materials and that, and start setting ourselves apart from agents that are in our industry and that. And so this is unique to her, and this will be unique to you. And can everybody see how you create a marketing tool like this that gives you some differentiation and sets you apart from that? Right? So it's a powerful way of when you do a business plan, they get you to do these core values, they get you to do these mission statements and purpose statements, but we usually lose the idea of how I can actually use them and work for them that are pulling and attracting and bringing in clients for me on a regular basis. So I'm going to just quickly share a little screenshot here, Alex. And so this is a chat GPT prompt that you can just take a picture of on your screen. Everybody see the prompt there? So this is a chat GPT prompt that can actually create a value proposition statement for you. So you're asking it to take your mission statement and your purpose statement and your core values and create a simple, powerful 3-sentence value proposition, like your elevator speech. So I don't know if you use AI a lot, anybody on the call uses AI, but you could use AI to create the mission statement. You could use AI to use for your purpose statement. You could use AI to create your value proposition. And I asked it to just create a 3-sentence value proposition, like my elevator pitch speech tool, and that I could use the 3 sentences to put in my marketing material along with that marketing tool and using that. So can everybody see how the core value exercise, the mission statement exercise, the purpose statement, and using AI, you can build a visual tool that now attracts, engages, differentiates, pulls on the consumers. It aligns with them. It aligns with who you are and what it is you do in that. And everybody's looking for a differentiator. And this is just a powerful way of you being able to create a differentiating tool for the consumer and separating yourself apart from everybody else in the industry and in your communities, right? Everybody get a snapshot of that value proposition? I will send the slide deck, but you can also do so many different things for business planning here. I did a brand assessment for it using it. So I just basically put my name in there and my website and my domain and put all those things in. And I'll send you that prompt as well, Alex, where you can actually use AI to tell how good of a job you're doing on the internet and on social media and engaging with the consumers and who your ideal client is in that. It's a powerful, powerful AI tool. It's not something to replace it. It's something to add value and to help you, assist you with trying to differentiate and building something there. So it's kind of neat that you can use AI to create some of these business planning things. And I thought I'd share this with you and the actual prompt to put in there to create a value proposition for your business and that, and being able to create a visual tool like this that can engage and differentiate yourselves from that. So if you look at page 11 and 12, and look at that. This is what you're trying to accomplish and build is this actual value proposition and this actual differentiator, and use a pull on the consumer instead of pushing on the consumer. One of the things I notice is that agents are doing so many things the same way. Give you an example. The last rate drop, like there was thousands. I have like 4,000 agents on my social media, and there was thousands of agents that just put 3.75%. Right? You all posted 3.75% across the country. And I'm like, oh, like it's like we don't realize that we're all doing the same thing. We're all just feeding to that commodity of the consumers that believe that we're all the same. So I had to reach out to one lady on social media because I said thank you. And I didn't really know her all that well. And I reached out to her and I said thank you, because she was the only person that answered the question in the client's head. So what's in it for me? And she put on there 3.75%. Does everybody know what the 3.75% really meant to Canada? It meant that for every $100,000 that everybody had in a line of credit or in a variable mortgage, their payment went down $42 a month. Woohoo! That was the 3.75%. But 100,000 Canadians posted all over their social and everything else, and that 3.75%. Now, did it get us busier in October? Yes. But the reality is that 100,000 realtors posted 3.75%, and nobody told anybody what the hell it meant to the consumers in Canada, you guys. right? And that's where I see is that everybody's putting out the same thing over and over again. You guys are being a commodity, and we're feeding into that myth, you guys. We just keep feeding that myth that we're all the same. We all are doing the same damn thing on everything. We do the same. There's nothing special or unique about us. And that, so I'm going to encourage you to switch that up and answer that question. So what? The 3.75. There's an like we guaranteed December 11th. There's a high probability we're going to see a quarter or a half point. And even though Alex, you'll have the only office that may have something uniquely posted on their social media platform this in December 11th. You're welcome. Because I will ask Alex to check everybody's platforms and see if you put 3.25 or 3.5 or whatever it's going to be the number on December 11th. So you guys, think about this. Put out and answer the question how it impacts them. What does it make and what does it do for them and how does it do them, right? Don't just put the same thing that everybody else is going to put on December 11th. Change it up. Change it up, you guys. Be different. Don't be a commodity in that and switch things up in that. So I'd encourage you. This is a great opportunity for you guys to be uniquely different and to create a marketing piece that sets you apart. Having a mission statement, pulling them in, having a purpose statement, pull on their hearts and that. You can only move people's emotional meter by changing how they feel. I'll remind you again. You move people's emotional meter and you pull them in by changing how they feel. They change how they feel when they read your purpose statement. They change how they feel when you see their old core values, their old-fashioned values. They change how they feel when they see what your mission is and why you do what you do and how you do it for people and how you impact people. And that is pull marketing. That changes and moves people's emotions and changes how they feel. If that makes sense to everybody, I won't go on anymore. But nobody, Alex, nobody in your office that's on this thing, nobody post 3.5. or 3.25 on December 11th, you guys. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's already 100,000 Canadian agents already doing it on December 11th. Don't add to the mix. Don't add to the commodity. All right, you guys. So last but not least is the goal setting. So we have goals, and I'll give you my take on goals. So here's my take on goals on page 13. We'll wrap this section up. On page 13, my take on goals is this. Goals need to be 90 days, every 90 days. Wade, why do you get coaching clients to do goals every 90 days? Real simple. The A-type rock star personalities, they crushed their goals and they completed them 45 days into their 90 days. So they need to set them again, or they're going to get bored and they're going to not have any vision or any purpose to drive them, right? Now, I'm not saying there's anybody on this call, but those that forgot about their goals 90 days ago, every 90 days, it's a kick in the ass to say, oh, I forgot that I didn't read my goals and I didn't check on my goals and that, and I need to redo them again every 90 days for a kick in the pants to get on and maybe work on those goals and pay attention to those goals. So I'm encouraging them to not let yourself, right, get complacent or just sitting on them and doing that, to look at them and reset them. So make it every 90 days and then do it in the 5 circles. Circle number 1 is goals for yourself, personal, you. You is goal circle number 1. Goal area number 2 is relationships. So yourself first. Your relationships second. Your happiness, health, and spirituality, right? Your well-being, third. Fourth, your business. And fifth, your finance, right? So you look at those 5 areas and set 90-day goals, okay? Every 90 days, switch them up, look at them, redo them, reassess them in those 5 areas. But when you write down the goal, can everybody write this formula down? You write down the goal, right? So I'll give you an example. I want to read a book a month. Okay, that's my goal. And then after that goal, you answer these questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So when you dive deeper into that goal, you actually have a clear, defined, written goal that explains who is that goal going to be with and why is that goal there. And how am I going to do that? And when am I going to do that with a timeline that? So everybody's heard the acronym SMART, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, reachable, right? Timeline on it. This is write that goal down and add the answers to that goal. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. and that will give you a clearer picture of how to actually act on that goal. Would you agree? Goals are useless if they're not acted on. Would you agree? Right? So help yourself with that goal setting process and do it. Goals for yourself, goals for relationships, goals for your well-being, goals for your business, and goals for your finance, and work on those 5 areas specifically every 90 days and see what difference it makes in you getting more things and acting more on those and creating the better personal and professional lives for yourselves. That's section 1 of the business plan. Were there any questions on the goal setting? Was there any questions on the core values, the mission statement, the purpose statement? Any questions on the reality check or the gap analysis? We're good? All right, perfect. We'll keep moving on. All right, so that's section 1. Let's get into diving into section 2. So how many people believe that math is in everything? Anybody believe that statement? Math's in everything, right? So my son is in engineering. He's very strong at math and calculus and things like that. He must have got it from his mother's because he certainly didn't get it from me and that. But the reality is that math is in everything. So if there's, Alex, could you maybe just, is there one volunteer that somebody would like me to do their business plan for them? I'm going to pull up a tool and we're going to just do the business plan for somebody here on the call. Anybody want to volunteer? You're going to get this tool, but I'll actually do your business plan. Tyson, you look like me 30 years ago, man. You're up to bat. How about you game? To unmute yourself?
I'll unmute myself, but I'm not even a registered realtor yet. I'm still in school, but
that's okay, man. It's all
okay,
good.
do it.
All right, so here we're gonna go, guys. So we're gonna just use a simple tool that I'm going to share with everybody on the call here. Okay, so you're gonna get a copy of this tool, and what I like about this tool is that Tyson's going to have his business plan, and he's going to have his business plan based onto 3 mathematical numbers. Okay. So Tyson, so I'm just going to walk you through this process. But what we have here, guys, is when you get a hold of this tool, and Alex will give you this tool and use it, all you do is put the numbers into the green section. Okay. So I'm going to set an income goal for Tyson for 2025. We're going to put $100,000. How does $100,000 sound to you, Tyson?
Works for me.
All right, works for me. All right, so he's got $100,000 we put in for his income, okay? Now we move down here to the next section, and we're going to just determine that Tyson is a new agent. So the majority of his business, and you'll realize this, Tyson, the more when you first start out, unless you have a really huge database, Tyson, you're going to have probably a more buyer heavy business than a seller listing heavy business, unless you have a big database. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So I put down here that I'm going to put down here that 75% of Tyson's business is with buyers. And then I'm going to put down here that 25% of his business is with sellers. Okay. So we got a 75-25 ratio. And for those of you that want to understand this, and Tyson, this will be a lesson for you. Okay. So can you guess the average time it takes in hours invested into a buyer and a seller on average for a buyer and a seller? You want to take a guess? How many hours do you think it takes to work with a seller to make a commission? And how many hours do you think it takes for the buyer to make a commission? What's your guess?
My guess, I say, I'll take a range. I'll say between 50 and 100.
Okay, so NAR says this, guys, that the average seller is 8 hours to earn the same amount of commission. With a buyer, it's 32 hours, Tyson. Okay, so 4 times longer with the buyer than it is a seller. So when you're building your business, Tyson, try to build your business by moving your business more to sellers and more on the seller side, because you've heard this statement, you want to work harder, not smarter. Would you agree with that? So having a seller-based business is working smarter, not harder, and less time for the same amount of money. How do you like them apples? Okay. All right. So, but when you first start out, you're going to be higher buyer base. So you're going to work harder in the outset than you need to in that and try to shift that. I use this other analogy, Tyson. It's like when you get real estate, you don't know this, but Alex is actually giving you a Tim Hortons franchise. Okay. So Alex is giving you a Tim Hortons franchise when you pass the test and when you get licensed. And the reality is that when you're buyer-based business, and I'm not picking on buyers, but it's like owning a Tim Hortons, Tyson, without a building, a drive-through, donuts, and coffee in a parking lot. Is that a fair analogy? So when you're buyer based, you don't have a sign up, you don't have a building up, you don't have coffee, donuts, and that. And would you agree running a Tim's without those things is a little bit harder than normally when you do that? Is that fair comment? So when you have a listing, you have a sign up, you have donuts, you have coffee, because you're marketing that home and you're out and about there and you're having that. So you're getting exposure and you have the marketing that. So I encourage you to try and get a listing to get yourself up there so you have a drive-through, you have a building, you have your donuts, you have your coffee and that. And it just makes running your Tim's franchise that Alex gave you, thank you, Alex, a lot easier when you first start off. Okay, man?
Yeah.
All right, sound good? All right. So we go to the listing sold percentage, and I was looking at the statistics, Alex, and I think your list to sell ratio was about 45% on average, or 40 to 50%. Like it was in that. So I'm just going to put here that Tyson's going to sell about 65% of his listings are going to sell, and 35% are going to expire and not sell. So that's the next number we put in. And then Tyson's going to be smart, and he's going to take a veteran with him to a listing presentation. So he's going to get 85% of his listings because he's going to take a mentor with him when he first starts, and they're going to do the presentation with him. And he's going to crush it with the veteran, and they're going to get 85% of his listing appointments on there. And then buyers. The reality is, Tyson, is that buyers are sitting on the fence right now, and they're going to be wanting to buy a deal. They're going to think that the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, that prices are going to go down in that, and that's not happening for the buyers. So the buyers are going to be a little bit tougher to get off the fence when you start, just so you know. So I use this analogy, buyers that lie and die and buyers that buy. And so I'm going to arguably say that you're probably going to experience about 40% conversion rate on buyers. Okay, my friend? They're tough to convince and they're tough to get off the fence in that, unless you've got some experience and unless you've got some good things in that. And then, Alex, what would you say Tyson's average commission gross dollar per deal would transaction be there? About 20,000 or 18,000?
Yeah, I'd say let's go with 18,000. I think
18,000. Okay, so Tyson, the good news is each time one of those listings sells, my friend, or a buyer buys, right? That's $18,000 to go towards your there. Okay, and then Tyson, I put you down for 50 weeks next year to work for. So you get 2 weeks holidays and 50 weeks you're going to work. Okay. So as you're going through this tool, you've got $100,000 business model here. So write this down, Tyson, because you can use this for your business when you pass it. Okay. All right. All right. So 100 grand.
Yeah, it doesn't go up to.
You've got here that the first thing is the number of appointments. So you see in red there, Tyson, you need 13 appointments this year. Okay. Coming up, you need 13 appointments. So I'm going to just use the statistic, Tyson, that the average agent talks to 50 people, 50. Everybody write that down. The average agent speaks to 50 people, 50, to get an appointment. Okay. A rookie agent like yourself, Tice, is probably going to be about 100 conversations to get an appointment. So you're going to have to talk to about 100 people. Okay. So if you take 100 people and you need to have 13 appointments. Okay. If you have 100 people times 13, so you go 100 conversations times 13 appointments this year, you need to talk to 1,300 people next year. Okay. And Tyson's like, that seems like a crazy number of people, Wade. That's insane. But let's do this, Tyson. You're going to work 50 weeks, 6 days a week, okay? 50 weeks. So you're going to take your 1,300 people and you're going to divide it by your 300 working days next year. Does that make sense? Okay? Because you're 50 times 6 days a week. So we divide your 1,300 conversations divided by 300. And now you need to talk to 4.3 people a day. Does that seem crazy to you to go talk to 4.3 people a day, 6 days a week, Tyson?
Oh, that's doable.
That's doable. So that's your first number. So let's go crazy here. And your first number is 5 conversations a day. 5. Okay, Tice?
Yep.
All right. Now your next conversation is appointments a week. So you'll see your appointment goal here is that it's a third of an appointment. So you basically need an appointment every 3 weeks. You've got to be in front of a buyer or a seller every 3 weeks. So write that down. Your next number is an appointment every 3 weeks. Okay, so 5 people a day, an appointment every 3 weeks. Okay, And now you'll see here that at 18,000 to make 100 grand, you need 6 transactions. You'll see that total transaction 6. So 12 months divided by 6, that's a deal every 2 months, right? That's a sale every 2 months. So let me ask you this, Tice. Next year, when Alex gives you your Tim Hortons franchise and you're up and running and you're listing and not buying with buyers and you're marketing stuff and that, does 5 conversations a day, 6 days a week seem crazy?
No.
No. And does an appointment in front of a buyer or a seller every 3 weeks seem difficult?
No.
And does selling a buyer or a seller's home every second month to make $100,000, do you think that 2025 100K is an easy, doable, actionable business plan for you? Yes or no?
Yeah, it looks like it broken down.
Okay. All right. So there it is. It's 3 numbers, man. So write those numbers down, right?
Yeah.
5 conversations a day, an appointment every 3 weeks, and a sale every second month, man. 100 grand,
Perfect.
right? Ever made 100 grand in a year?
No.
Awesome. You're going to now.
Awesome.
You're going to now, right? Because the math doesn't lie. Okay. So let's just see if I go crazy here and I move Alex's goal up to $200,000. Well, it doesn't change it much. It just doubles the numbers, right? So now basically you got basically, if you go crazy, if you want to make 200 grand, Tice, now you're talking an appointment every 2 weeks, right? A sale a month, appointment every 2 weeks, and you've got basically 10 conversations a day to make 200 grand. Okay. But I want to explain to everybody the most important number. Tyson, the most important number is this: conversations. Conversations. Okay. And let me explain to you, Tice. If you don't talk to people and you don't have those conversations, then you're not going to get the appointments. If you don't get the appointments, then you don't get the presentations. If you don't get the presentations, you don't get the contracts. If you don't get the contracts, then you don't get the sale and the commission. You don't get the sale and the commission, then you don't get paid. If you don't get paid, then you don't have food and you don't have gas and you don't have money. And then you're going to be sad and then you're going to get out in that. So it all boils down to the first number, the conversations, 555. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
As long as you have those conversations daily, you'll get all the other numbers. They come into play. Is that helpful?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right, everybody. That's that tool. Alex will send you that tool out and everybody will be able to use that tool and break your numbers down. How many people found that beneficial, that you set your income goal and it's in 3 mathematical numbers and all you remember is the conversations, which will get your appointments, which will get your presentations, which will get your commissions and that, and it all falls in line as long as you focus on those 3 mathematical numbers. Okay, Tyson? Thanks,
Awesome.
buddy. Appreciate
Thank
you. Yeah, thanks. That was great. All right, folks. So everybody knows that they can break their business plan down into 3 mathematical numbers and know what those numbers are and focus on those numbers and keep it simple. Keep it simple, okay? And look at those numbers. The next pages we're going to look at, guys, is page 14 and 15. Everybody turn to their workbooks and look at page 14 and 15, please. Okay? So page 14. So thank you to whoever, Alex, I'm not sure, who do we thank for all the statistics that somebody did for us there, my friend?
It was, sorry. It was a combined venture.
Okay. So guys, like, somebody in your office did a lot of work for us, and I want to thank them for that. So what they did was they went through and they did all of the data and all the statistics, and Alex is going to send this out. But basically, they did all the numbers. And so this next section, when you look at page 14, and Tyson, this is a very good lesson for you, my friend. When you look at page 14, right? Can anybody explain to myself here? Can anybody explain to me why would knowing what the market numbers is so important? What are the benefits? So let's think about that voice in our head. Who cares about the numbers? Who cares about the data? Who cares about that stuff? What's the benefits of that? Tyson, if you knew these statistics, so if you read on page 14, if you knew what average price was doing, if you knew what medium price was doing, if you knew what the days on market is, how long it takes for a seller to sell, if you knew what the ask price to sale price statistic is, if you know what the total number of sales are in each property type, if you knew the 5 best neighborhoods where the most sales happen, Tyson, would that increase your confidence? Yes or no?
Yeah, if I knew all that. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Right. So the whole point of this is that I got Alex's team to do all this for us, and thank you for the team for doing this, a joint effort. Is that, Tyson, you need to study this. We all need to study this because the information now makes it so that, man, your confidence level is up, your knowledge is up, your attractiveness in that. And I would argue that what you earn was what the value of the marketplace sees and what you know and what you know about the industry and what the business is, if that makes sense, right? So arguably your knowledge and your understanding of what's going on in that is another game changer and a differentiator, Tyson, when you know this stuff and your confidence in that. How important is it when there's $1 million on the line or $2 million on that you feel confident and they feel confident, they feel your confidence in you, right? It's huge. There's big money, right? So knowing this information. Benefit number two is that not only does Tyson's confidence go up in that, and people are engaging like, wow, he really knows his stuff, and he's really just throwing it out there, and that not throwing it out there to impose on people, but throwing it out there because they really want to share the information, the data, and the stats, and he really seems like he knows what he's talking about. But the next thing is that he now can use this information to strategically build your business and follow and target your business, right? So Alex's team, I'm going to show you guys, basically gave us some of the things. So Tyson, if you knew where the neighborhoods that had the most listings and sales, would that be ideal for you so that you know where to go and farm and where to lead gen and where to prospect, where all the listings and sales are? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And would it be important for you to know where the best price ranges are so you could focus on those price ranges and those neighborhoods and those price ranges?
Yep.
Absolutely, right? So the reason why you want to study this information is to use that to build your knowledge, to build your engagement, and everybody on the call to be able to target better and strategically identify where the opportunities are in your marketplaces. So let's just look at these numbers quickly here and look at them, what they built us for us, okay? So we've got Mississauga. Listings are down, Tyson, 2.3%, but sales are up 21%. Okay, so inventory's slower and sales are up. So it's a sales to obviously it's a leaning towards more of a seller's market because there's not a lot of inventory and there's a lot more supply is lower than the demand. Does that make sense in Mississauga? And Tyson, you look at this next one and there's sales to listings. So this number here, Tyson, is 47.2%. What that number means is that 53, almost 53% of the properties that got listed in Mississauga didn't sell. Okay, so why that's important is that there's a lot of agents that lied to sellers in Mississauga. Sorry, I'm just being honest, right? There's a ton of agents. So guess what, Tyson? There's 47% that sold and there's 53 that are not. There's a ton of people that were lied to that are looking for an agent to tell the truth and sell them their house for them. Does that get you excited?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Now, you can't strategically go after expireds in your trading market area, but there's ways where you can be able to engage in that and be able to see in the opportunity that there was 53% of Mississaugans that were unhappy in their marketplace that failed and organized real estate failed them. So would you agree there's a ton of opportunity for sellers to be able to help them in Mississauga?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Median price is down a bit, so the prices are holding and sales there. So this sale price to list price, Tyson, that's the percentage of the ask price to the sale price. So sellers are only negotiating 4%. But the good news is, you don't know this, Tyson, but Alex, would you say 3 years ago your average list to sell price was about 127,000, 20%? Right? So Tyson, 3 years ago, sellers were getting like 20% over their asking price, which was no bueno for the buyers. Would that make sense, Tice? But now the sellers are taking 4% off their asking price. So buyers are getting, that's an opportunity because buyers are actually getting sellers to negotiate now in this marketplace. Awesome, right? So that's a good statistic, a good opportunity. So, and now sellers, Alex, I'd arguably say, what is it, like 1 day or 6 days or 4 days, 3 years ago? Tyson, it was probably within days, a property was sold and it had multiples and it was sold for 120% of that. But now it's taking almost 25 days, Tyson, to sell a property. So buyers have time now, right? There's the opportunity. Buyers have time. Sellers aren't just getting this rampage, this crazy market and that. So things are shifting. So you understanding each of these statistics and how they impact a seller and how they impact a buyer, is that important stuff? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many people, and I don't know that, how many people need to spend a little bit more time understanding what each of these statistics actually means to a buyer, what it means to a seller? And more importantly, you guys, when you look at this data and the statistics, you can understand where the opportunities are, right? Like there's a lot of unhappy, disgruntled sellers in Mississauga that didn't organized real estate didn't take good care of them, right? 53% of them weren't taken care of. And there's a buying opportunity because it's taking longer. They've got time now and they're negotiating. They're coming off from 4% and that. So there's lots of good data here to explain what it does and what it means to a buyer and seller in the marketplace when you look at this and you research it. Now, you go to Milton, right? Inventory way up, 47%. Sales up, way up, right? So you've got list to sell. Again, look at this in Milton. 40% of property sold, 60% in Milton didn't sell. Tyson, where are you trading? What area are you trading in?
So far, it looks like Milton.
Milton, right? Good answer. See, I love it. I love the new guys. Hey, Alex, they're like they just get it, right? The veterans are like, "Oh, I don't go to Milton, man. I'm above Milton. Like that's not my crowd, right?" And that Tyson looks at it and says 60% of sellers were lied to in Milton, and there's a ton of people that want to sell in Milton that didn't sell, and organized real estate failed them. I'm going to Milton, right, Tyson? Sign me up. Absolutely. Right. And then median price is down and 98% of ask. So there's 2% off ask in 26 days. You continue to go through this and here we've got 54% in Halton Hills, right? And listings are down and sales are up. And you look at the opportunity in there again, it's another opportunity where 46% or 45.5% are not successfully selling in that marketplace. Again, we've looked at Aaron and that. Look at Aaron. Oh, we probably are moving here. Tice, look at this.
Yeah.
Right? Sales to new listings.
Yeah.
Right? Again, another hot market. Milton and Aaron, Tyson, write it down. Milton and Aaron. Right? 60% of sellers were lied to and failed, and organized real estate failed them in that. What an opportunity there. Okay. You look at, and then you go to detached, semi-detached. So all of these numbers are going to be provided to everybody and I wanted to show you the importance of looking at these numbers and understanding and sitting with a veteran agent, Tyson, and understanding what they mean and what they mean to consumers, right? Let's look at these other ones here that were done for us. Okay. So moving in. So Tyson, write these numbers down. So here's Mississauga. Here are the top areas this past year for sales. So Churchill Meadows, right? You've got all of these different areas here. Everybody take a picture of this. This is all the top neighborhoods that had the most sales this past year. 5 top areas. So when you're able to use this in your social, when you're able to use this in your presentation, do you engage and do you stand out knowing this information? Or you use this as lead bait, Tyson? Let me explain to you what lead bait is. Hey, on social, I could put, curious what the top 5 neighborhoods in Mississauga that had the most sales are in 2025? Message me. It's a lead bait. Make sense to you, Tice? So you could use that on social where you could use this statistic to lead capture and say, hey, reach out to me if you're interested in the top 5 neighborhoods that had the most sales in Mississauga in 2024. Okay? How many people do you think might respond to that kind of a social post and capture lead?
I don't know.
I like my chances of getting some leads off of that, right? Or what are the worst areas, right? So here are the best areas for Mississauga. Here are the top areas, right, for solds and asks, right? Here are the areas for Milton. So you guys will get all this data. And again, take this data, you could use it to increase your knowledge and your confidence. You could use this to be more strategically targeting where you want to work your business, Tyson. You could use this to do it as lead capture and yes, social content and pull content, not push content, right? So Tyson, one of the things that agents do is they give the worm. So I'm a fisherman, Alex is a fisherman. So what agents do, Alex, is they don't use the hook and the worm, they just give the worm. And so they post the actual worm, which is the content, instead of just pushing the hook. So what I mean by that is you put in there, want to know what the 5 best areas in Mississauga were in 2024, make them come and bite the hook, right? But agents will post on their content the 5 top neighborhoods and not make people contact them and reach out to them, and they give them the worm. So Tyson, don't give people the worm. Use your information and your content to get them to bite the hook to give you a name and an email and a phone number or whatever, right? Does that make sense to you? Okay. So don't fall in the trap of giving the worm away, right? Use the information, the content to capture them and to capture the information. So here we've got the areas in Milton. We've got, now here are the worst neighborhoods. Would I want to maybe respond to the worst neighborhoods? Where I guess I don't want to use the worst. I'll say, here were the slowest sales areas in Mississauga in 2024. Could I use that for contact capture? To contact capture? Yeah, absolutely. I could use that information there. So again, Tyson, why this is important to you is these are the areas where people are probably staying put or they're not as popular. So would you want to spend your time, energy, and effort into these 5 neighborhoods? No judgment, but would it make sense that you'd want to spend your time, energy, and effort in areas where there's the most listings and the most sales versus the least listings and the least sales? Does that make sense? Right? Alex, when I teach this in my office, I have a lady that farms one of the worst areas in my area, and she thinks I'm picking on her all the time. And I'm like, Monique, I'm not picking on you. I'm just sharing with you that you're marketing and you're farming an area that has really little or no sales and little or no listings in that. And I'm just trying to help you be more strategic with your efforts and your time and energy and effort. And she's like, oh no, I'm going to do it because I live there and everything else. And that's great. But I mean, like a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. That's great. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, like maybe you might want to consider one of these more prominent areas that might have more opportunity and more opportunity for you to get a listing and get a sale. Just saying. All right. So again, the slower areas for all of your Milton areas and that, you've got the price ranges. How important is it? Here you go, Tice. Here are the price points that are the hottest price points in the marketplace. Is everybody starting to understand how important this data is, right? So now I know where the price ranges are. Now I know where the neighborhoods are. Now I know where the opportunities are and the statistics and that. How much more powerful can you be knowing this information? How much strategy can you use to be able to do this, right? So here's your price ranges and neighborhoods. So you take, Tyson, you take these price ranges and those neighborhoods and you build your marketing and your prospecting plans around price ranges and around those neighborhoods that you're going to have the highest probability of success in 2025. Make sense to you?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So now we know price ranges. Again, could I share this as a social contact capture opportunity on social or on any different other sources? Would this add value to my existing relationships? Would this increase my expertise and my knowledge by knowing all of this data and being able to share all this data? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So you're just using this information to be more strategic, to add value proposition, to be engaging, and to capture, right? So I guess the last part I want to share with you guys is this. The media likes to post and likes to emphasize on what, Tyson? Fear or positivity?
Fear.
Fear. So, guys, this is the reminder. Look at this. Look at these numbers here that Alex and his team gave us here. So, Tyson, how important is it to how important would it know that if I bought from you 5 years ago that I am up 37% in equity? How good would that be?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be great. So is it important for us to take over the media and remind people of how much equity they still have instead of how much fear is coming or how much doomsday is coming? Can we take control over media? Yes or no? Right? So my point is this, guys, is that remind people of how much they should love you and how much love you've given them by how much equity they have in their properties still, right? Does that make sense to you? Right. And so, if you're in the Mississauga area and that the average price was this, and good news is that 5 years ago, it's still right. It's still right 37% higher, and there's still 37% more value in your property than you had when you bought it 5 years ago. And maybe there's an opportunity to take some of that and invest in another property or refinance or do something, right? And use that information to be able to communicate. Again, more 37% up right now. You got to be careful. There were some areas here, right, detached in Milton, where they have lost some equity, but still reminding that those that bought 5 years ago are still up 37%, right? So we got to try and look at where the opportunities are. So some of the neighborhoods and some of the areas a year ago and 3 years ago aren't so good, but you're reminding them that they still have quite a bit of equity still in their properties. And look at this information, right? And look at it. Here's Aaron still doing well, right? So Halton Hills has struggling the last 1 and 3. Milton's struggling that, but Mississauga's doing well. Aaron's doing well, right? So look at the places where people have equity and are in a position to be able to do something still in the marketplace. Does that make sense to everybody with this data and this information? And remind your clients, Tyson, just so you know, every 5 years, your clients are going to have a bumper sticker that says, I love Tyson. And every 5 years after that, they're going to have a bumper sticker that says, I hate Tyson. Because markets are cyclical, right? So like every 10 years, they're loving the realtors, and every 5 years or so, they're not so loving. So you see this in Mississauga, right? 3 years ago, the people that were down 3%, they're not as happy as the people that were 5 years ago. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So again, guys, Milton, 40% for semi-detached up, 68% in Halton Hills up, semi-detached. Here's the freehold townhouses, all the different markets. So you look at the equity positions of the marketplaces and you'll be able to strategically focus on that, right? So we'll get this in your hands, guys. And how many people need to spend some time diving into this data and diving into the statistics? Number one, understand what the data means to the buyer and seller. Number two, figure out how you can use it for value add and for contact capture. Number three, use it to increase your value proposition, your knowledge, and your self-confidence, right? And number four, be planned and be strategic and not just throw a dart and close your eyes and hope that it hits the dartboard in 2025. So thanks, Alex, and his team in that for being able to provide that information. Does everybody see how they could use this market analysis and how they could use this to be more strategic and do a better job and use this information to be more planned in 2025 with their business? Show of hands. We're good? All right. But it's going to take some time to study and to research it and to look at the data and to really understand what the data means and what it's saying. Okay, you guys? Right? So I'd encourage you all to look at that. Okay? Encourage you all to look at it. All right? So there's a couple of tools and a couple of things here. Let's get back to our slide presentation here, okay? Give me 2 seconds here and I'll just stop, change screens. All right. Keep going here. All right, so the math, we talked about the market and how the market numbers and that can be impactful here. Now, the second page is your businesses. So Tyson, you're going to have to use the brokerage's statistics because you won't have your own statistics till you get your own experience. Does that make sense? But veteran agents that are on this business planning session here, vets, guys, you're going to be able to go and look at your numbers. So if you turn to page 15, everybody, I'll use this quote. What gets measured gets done. What gets measured and fed back gets done well. What gets rewarded gets repeated. So we look at this and you're able to start looking at your own numbers and your business numbers. So everybody understands that you look at these numbers so that you can look at the following information. So what's your average price? What's your median price, right? What's your list to sell? What's your expiry rate? Where is your business happening? What percentages with buyers? What percentage of sellers? What's your demographic and that? So think about this. Is this a powerful marketing tool that you could use? Okay, so this is a coaching client in Langley that I have, Jen, and this is kind of what you can use your data for. So in 2023, this is 2 years ago, Jen's sellers got 100% of asking price, where the average board member in their trading area got 97%. So she was netting 3% more for her sellers than agents in Langley. Is that a good stat? Yes or no? Right? So she was netting them 3% more than the average agent in their board area and using this as a marketing tool. She was selling her properties in 14 days, where the average agent in Langley was 27 days. And she had 87% of her listings sell, where the average agent, we saw this in your area, there was only selling for 49% of their sellers were selling in that. So Jen created this marketing piece that shows them that she nets a seller more money when she acts for them than an average agent in her board area. She does it quicker and faster than the average agent in her board area. And she doesn't list homes, she sells homes versus the agents in the marketplace. Is this a powerful marketing tool that you could create from looking at your own business numbers, guys? Right? So when you look at page 15, you can understand where you can separate yourselves and use this information to create a marketing piece. Is there anything more important for a seller than knowing that you net me more money, you're quicker than the average agent, and you don't list homes, you sell homes? Is there anything more powerful for a seller wanting to know that for you? No, there's not, right? That's what they want to know. And creating this marketing piece and creating this and putting it into your marketing and on your website and your materials, that will help you give you a different. Now, Tyson, you can use this statistic and get your board and your office, right, information and use your company stats until you get your own stats and get experience. Does that make sense? And for those of you that don't have strong personal stats, you could just use the brokerage's stats and the firm stats and use those numbers to be able to coordinate. But I guess at the end of the day, you look at this business and you look at this analysis and that you can look at it and create marketing pieces that communicate your value proposition. So the compound effect, what does this do? So Tyson, what you can do is you can control three things. So there's three things you control. Each year you want to increase your relationships with people, more people that say you're our agent. Each year you want to increase that. The next one you want to do is increase your average sale price. Because if you increase your sale price, then your commissions increases when you increase your sale price. Does that make sense? Right? So working smarter, not harder. And then the last thing that we control is increasing our frequency. Let me explain to you the increasing of frequency with a client, guys. Write this down. So frequency increase number one is getting them to refer you. Frequency increase is getting them to refer you. Frequency increase number two is getting them to repeat with you, to come back and do business with you again. Don't take it for granted. Frequency increase number three opportunity is they buy investment or commercial or recreation with you. Does that make sense? So they refer you, frequency number increase number one, right? They repeat with you and they look at reinvesting with you into commercial, recreation, residential, rental properties, right? So if you increase each of these categories, write this down, 26%. If you increase each of these categories 26%. So Tyson, quickly, how many people do you think that you know that you have on your phone? Like friends, relatives, and that, how many people do you think you have in your relationships list?
I think over 100 for sure.
Okay, over 100. So each year, if you increase that 126 more people each year, does that seem unreasonable to meet and to add 26 people a year? Does that seem like a big number to you? Yes or no?
No, that's no problem.
No, not at all. So if you take 26% and raise your average price 26%, add 26 new people to your database and get somebody to repeat, refer you, or buy and invest with you. If you do that every 26% each year, your income, Tyson, will double every 3 years in your business.
Okay.
Your income will double. Would you like to double your income every 4 years? Yes or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So everybody write this down. 26% increase in client base relationships, 26% increase in average sale price, and 26% increase in frequency annually. Every 4 years, your income will double by a 26% increase. Okay? It doesn't seem significant, but the impact in 4 years is huge. The compound is huge. Okay. All right. So any questions on knowing your business numbers and knowing the market numbers? The market numbers, game changer when you really understand them and you use them properly. Your own business numbers and that, like knowing when your best months are your best months of sales the same best months as the market sales? Right? Good question and good to know, right? When should I go away and when should I not go away? When are the best numbers and when are the best months there? And what are my best months? Do they match with the market's numbers, right? What are my price ranges? What are my best price ranges? What are my best sources in that? So if you turn to page 16, right? You look at page 16 and that's the sources. So where do my businesses come from? Okay. Does all my business come from my database? Can I get some expired opportunities, FSBO opportunities, geo farming, tell 20s? Tell 20s are like just listed, just sold, got a buyer. Do they come from foreclosures? Do they come from opens? Do they come from print ads? Do they come from social media, agent referrals, seminars, relocations, sign calls? Do you have a mall kiosk or office floor duty? Your website, your blog, your lead gen, your social, your direct mail, your investors, right? Your ancillary service providers. Where is your business coming from? Where is it coming from? Okay. So one of the things that I want to recommend you guys is that your business needs to be like this. This is your business, Tyson. So your business is this house, everybody. So your house needs to have 6 sources. So when you do page 16, look at it and say, do I have 6 sources? 6, the number 6. Do I have 6 sources coming for it? Because if you don't have 6 sources on page 15 or page 16, you guys, you don't have enough lead sources. Okay, you need 6 lead sources, Tyson. So lead source number 1, your foundation of your house, Tyson, is your relationships in your database. Write that down. Number 1, non-negotiable relationships. That's your foundation, number 1. Okay. And then number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 can be any other sources. Okay. Can be any other sources. So any other sources on page 16 would work for the other ones. But number 1, non-negotiable, is your database. Okay. And the reason why is that if you work your database, Tyson, 22% annual return on people that already know, like, and trust you if you work your database. 22% annual return. Do you have any idea what the internet return is for conversion is for internet lead? It's about 1.5%. So would you rather focus on 22% or 1.5% return?
22 for sure.
22%. Unaddressed ad mail, guys, right? For every 2,000 mailing pieces, you get a lead, Tyson. So unaddressed ad mail and that, flyers and that, unaddressed Canada Post mail, which is obviously not going out right now, but that's a 2,000 to 1 conversion rate. Not very high, is it? Right? So you got to look at what are the lead sources, what are the lead funnels, and what are the ROIs on those lead funnels and those sources of that. And you need 6. Now, do I start with 6? No, I work 1 and get it firing, and then I add another one and get it working, and then add another one and get it working. So, Tice, it might take you all year to build up your 6, but you build 1 and get it up and running and working, and then you build a second one and get it up and running, and then a third one. When you do all 6 at the same time, Tyson, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to do 6 not very well, and they're not going to work for you, and then you're going to think they don't work. It's just that you can't do all 6 all at one time. You need to do 1 at a time and get it up and running, and then the next one and the next one and the next one, and it'll probably take you the year to build up your 6 funnels. Does that make sense to you? Okay. All right. So this is what you're looking at. So I'm going to show you guys that you're going to start with the foundation. You're going to start with foundation number 1. So, right, you can take these numbers, but one relationship in your database is $1,000 a year income. $1,000 a year, one relationship. And when you have one relationship, the average relationship knows 150 other people. So you're not bringing in one new person, you're bringing in an opportunity of another 150 people when you meet someone new each day. Okay. Now, again, 86% of agents, they would use their agent again, but don't. And every 5 years, an agent's losing 50% of their business, okay, or their relationships, okay? We're spending 6-8 times more time, money, and effort getting the client than we are keeping the client. And if you mine your database, if you add value, write this down, if you add value and stay top of mind, not bug, if you add value and stay top of mind with people that know you, like, and trust you, you'll return 22% minimum annually, okay? And 80% of your income comes from 20% of your relationships. And you need 6 sources, not one source on page 16. You need 6 sources. And one of the sources is non-negotiable, and that's your database. All right. So everybody's going to get a copy of this. And I built this Excel spreadsheet tool for your database because it's the number 1 source of business is your database. So I know Vani teaches this and she's very good at this and teaching relationships and that. But guys, what I did and what I created here is a tool that Alex is going to send you. So what to do to your database is the activity is across the top and how to do it is along the side. Does that make sense? Okay. So what to do is across the top and how to do it is along the side. Okay. So I've basically built you a system here that you can track and you know exactly what to do to your database and people you know, like, and trust, and how to do them along the sides. And we'll send you this tool out. But let me just quickly just go through them and just explain to you. All right. So first things first, newsletters. Yes, the 80s called Wade. They want their concept back. Okay. But take this in mind. Write this down, guys. A personally addressed mailing piece. Write this down. A personally addressed mailing piece, 97% open and read rate. A personally addressed mailed piece, 97% read and read rate. Email, 32%. Okay, so if you're relying on email, 32% chance they're going to read and open and look at it. If you personally mail them, Tice, 97%. Okay, so personally mailing somebody something, when we get all this mess sorted out with Canada Post, 97%. Digitally, 32%. Huge difference. But I want to give you guys a couple of ideas on how to make a mailing piece more valuable. Okay, let me give you some strategies on how to make your mailing piece more valuable. Okay, so in your mailing pieces, you could do things like this. You could do a business spotlight in there. Okay, so you could do a business spotlight. So you could do best place for coffee, or you could do best place for seafood, or best Italian, that, right? And mix it up. You could also do, when I sent out my mailing pieces, I had a voucher, a discount voucher. So when I sent out my mailing piece each month, in my mailing piece, there was a business each month that gave me a discount to their business. Okay. So I had a dry cleaner one month. I had a pet food store the next month. I had a coffee shop. I had a Thai food restaurant one. I had I had all these different services and different vouchers and discounts in my mailing piece. Does that add value to my mailing piece? Yes or no? Absolutely, right? So think about how you can make your mailing pieces and your materials add value. Uh, there's one of the ladies in Ginny Anderson. Do you know Ginny, Alex, in Orangeville? Ginny puts out a what's happening in Orangeville activity every week. That she puts out a schedule of all of the live music and events and community stuff in that and schedule. She has a huge following on what's happening in Orangeville on a weekly basis and that. And again, it's value add and top of mind. And she's built that following up doing that. And I have another coaching client that's in Vegas. They're always putting the schedule about who's performing and what shows are in Vegas and happening at. And she has a huge following from her events calendar in that because it adds value, right? So if there's a hockey team or a sporting team, or if there's events going on, or like there's so many Christmas things and events, holiday events happening in that, right? It adds value, and it makes a marketing piece, not just a marketing piece. It adds value to that piece, if that makes sense to everybody. Okay. So think about how you can do that. I can't see everybody in the call, but how many people do annual unsolicited market evaluations? Annual unsolicited market valuations. Okay. So think about this. I send a video explaining the comps and what's happened in their area the past year, a video, or I send a package, or I deliver a package, or I email something like that. So on my cover letter for my annual evaluations, guys, it just says, hey, as a value add piece in that, right? This is basically providing you information so that you know what happened in the past year, so that you can do the following things with this information. I didn't send this unsolicited CMA to try and get their listing. I sent it so that I could explain to them that they could ensure that their house insurance value is coverage is high enough. They could maybe consider doing a refinance or an equity takeout. They could maybe look at doing a tax planning or estate planning for retirement in that. So I give them the annual information, and my cover letter explains to them that they could use that information to do this and this and this and this and this. How many people think that that adds value and that's a good reason to be in front of their people, right? On an annual basis, right? And here's the trick, Tice. When I do the evaluation, I don't tell them what I think the property's worth. I don't tell them what it's worth. So when I call you 5 days after I've delivered it to you, I ask you if you've got it. I ask you if you have any questions. And if you've got it and any questions, your first response, if you're not interested in selling, will be, hey, we love this place. We're not going anywhere, Wade, but thanks for the information. We appreciate the heads up on that and appreciate you checking in and calling, right? But when they do think about selling, or they do think about that, they'll say to me, hey, Wade, I noticed you didn't tell us what you thought it was worth. And my response is that it's policy that I physically view every property prior to giving an evaluation or giving a number. When could I come over and view your property? And I'll give you that number. And now I have an appointment captured. Okay. So the money, everybody on the call, is not in the evaluation. The money is in the follow-up and the conversation after. So I asked Tyson, did you get it? I asked him if he has any questions. And if he asks me, will I come by and see it? And then I'll also ask him if he has other properties that I could evaluate. How many agents, be honest, think about this. How many agents on this call have no other idea other than the one property you sold your clients, and you don't know if they own commercial or residential or recreational in that? So here's an opportunity to put that in your database. When I call and ask Tyson, hey, can I evaluate your rec property for you, or any commercial property, or any other rentals that you might have in that? Now I can capture that information and put it into my CRM and be able to be on top of that, know that. And then I'll ask them if they have other properties and if they have other family or friends or people that I could do the evaluation for as well. Does that make sense, everybody? So you've got printed value proposition pieces being sent. You've got annual evaluations. You've got birthday cards and house anniversary cards and moments like that. If you can write this down, cardly.net, Cardly, cardly.net, you guys. It's a Canadian company that will actually scan your handwriting, write your notes for you, your cards for you, and mail them for you for like a buck and change. A beautiful card, all printed, mailed for house anniversaries, for birthdays, for life moments that you'll see on there and that. You can add them in that, and Cardly will send them all for you. And you can even add a little gift to it as well. It's called cardly.net, little nugget for you there. How many people have trades and services and businesses directories? Right? So you have an annual business and trades and service directory. So I had a book that I would send out with all my trades people, all my service providers, only by referral, and I'd have a directory on my website and a physical directory that I sent out every New Year's as a New Year's gift. Pop-by gifts. I don't know if there's anybody in the call that's Ukrainian like me, but we're a little on the lazy side. So you can do pop-buys. So like Jennifer that I coach, she does mail buys instead of pop buys. So she mails like lottery tickets, scratch and win lottery tickets at St. Patty's Day. She mails out seeds at spring for flower seeds and that to her clients and that. And the reaction from the mailing of those items is just as powerful as her dropping off those pop-by gifts and that, because I know it's hard to traffic and driving around, and it's a large geographical trading area for some of you guys. So you could literally do mail outs and mail pop-by gifts instead of drop-by pop-by gifts. And then for those of you that want to do it, you could do a reverse pop-by. So Sarah that you saw, Sarah Wallner, she has people come and pick up pumpkin and apple pies at Thanksgiving, the 2 days before the weekend. So they come by the office and pick up a pumpkin pie or an apple pie, and she does reverse pop buys. So you could do mail buys and reverse pop buys and limit your time of driving around in that, because I know that becomes an issue. Social media, I'll just watch for life moments and interact with people on social media and on life moments. I'll have client parties. If you read my blog this past week, I did a client event, parties and that. So client events, the one thing I love about client events, and you'll wonder why doing a client event, it's that if you've read the book, The Go-Giver, when they come to your client party, they meet other friends and they connect with other businesses and services. And they say to me, we met at your client event. Like, we become close friends in that. And so you become that straw that stirs the drink and connecting people and relationally in your client events. And an efficiency standpoint, you're able to touch everybody as they're coming to you in an event and being more efficient with your time and effort in that. Texting, write this down, 97% response rate on texting. 97% response rate on texting, 32% response rate on email, 32% on email, and 23% response rate on phone calls. 23% chance they're going to answer your call, 32% they're going to answer your email, 97% they're going to respond to your text, you guys. How important is it to have your clients' mobile numbers, right? Huge, 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 huge. All right, so I won't spend more time on this, but what to do and all of the suggestions on how to leverage it and how to do it, all that, all set up. Can everybody see that this tool is helpful for you to do a better job of adding value and staying top of mind on an annual basis to your relationships, right? Right? So I'll share that tool with you guys, and you can look at that and use that tool and use it there. All right, so Tyson, tool number 2, guys. Let's go to tool number 2. So the next one is what I call spin to win. So this is probably one of the most underutilized tools in our business, in our market. How many people do a diligent job of creating more business from new business that they've generated? So does everybody do a good job of getting more business from a sale? Does everybody do a good job of getting new business using a buyer? Does everybody do a good job of a price reduction and spinning more business or adjust lists in that? So what I call this is spin to win. So you're generating more business from the business as you've created it and building a system to do that. Tyson, this is your number 2 on your house, number 2. Number 1 is your database. Number 2 is spin to win, okay? And you're going to use brokerages, buyers, brokerages, listings, brokerages, sales, brokerages, price reductions with permission from your peers on this call. Does that make sense? So you're going to be like, hey, Mickey, I just saw that you had this. Would you mind if I put your new listing out to my database? What's Mickey going to say? Yeah, go for it, Tyson, right? So when you do that, Tyson, you put we just listed this beautiful executive home in Milton, right? It's Mickey's listing, but you put we instead of I, and you're using that to spin more business and creating an opportunity to generate more business from a warm response, right? Not a cold response, using Mickey's listing with her permission. Does that make sense, Dice? Okay. Thank you, Mickey, for sharing your listing with them. All right. So think about the opportunities, guys. For those of you that don't have buyers and don't have listings and don't have sales and that, approach people in the business in the office that do. For those of you that do have those opportunities, make sure you've got some system in place to spin more business as you've generated and worked so hard to get that business. Am I throwing a light bulb on for everybody here? Does that make sense? So I call it the spin to win. So I created another Excel spreadsheet for you guys to be able to use as a tool for spin to win. Okay, Tice? So here's your spin to win. Okay. So what to spin is along the top. So a listing from the firm, a buyer that somebody has in the brokerage, right? A just sold, right? A price reduction. So there's 8 opportunities here that you can spin. All right. And what to say on here. So here's the listing. We need your help. Okay. So when you help your message and you humanize your message, you get a higher response. I'll repeat that. When you use the messaging of help and you use humanization, you get a better response on stuff. Does that make sense? So response number 1, write this down, guys, a legit bona fide buyer. So Tyson, use a buyer to generate listing lead opportunities. Use a buyer to generate listing lead opportunities. So if you guys write this down, hand tuck a note and slide it into Doris Tice. If you slide 75 notes that you have a buyer that's looking to buy a home, and you use this messaging. We need your help. My clients, John and Susan, would greatly appreciate your help with the purchase of their property. If you happen to know a friend or family member that's selling in this building or in this area, please give me a name, give me their information, and I'll follow up. And thanks for your help with these buyers and that, with John and Susan being able to move into your beautiful neighborhood, right? So you actually have a legit buyer that you're using. If you hand tuck that into 75 doors, Tyson, every 75 letter tucks, you get 1 call. Hey, I got your letter. Come tell me what my house is worth. Would you be willing to go out and just tuck 75 letters and doors to the buyer to get a listing appointment for every 75 doors letter tucked?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So now, Tyson, the letter that you're tucking is not on branded paper. I'll write this down, everybody. It's not on branded paper. It can't be another marketing door junk mail piece. It has to look like a note like I just tucked on your windshield. Does that make sense? It looks like a note that I tucked on your windshield. So you staple your business card, Tyson, to this note explaining that you have a buyer looking and you need help. You fold it and you tuck it in each of their doors. And if you do that, every 75 to 100 letter tucks, you will get 1 person that calls you. Hey, we have a buyer. Tice, I coach a guy that's probably not much older than you in the GT area, and he letter tucks consistently like this. And like, at first, we didn't get, sometimes we got quick responses, but a lot of times we got calls 30, 60, 90 days later from the letter tuck. Does that make sense? So Nick's the guy's name, young guy that I do. He does this. And 30, 60, 90 days ago, after we tucked the letters, we ended up getting 6 calls in 1 week from letters that we had talked about buyers and just solds that we had tucked 30, 60, 90 days ago. Would you be excited to get 6 listing appointment calls in 1 week from letter tucking? Right? So everybody on this call, I coach a lot of people, and this works. This spin to win works, and the letter tuck works as long as it's not another branded marketing piece like another junk mail piece. It just looks like a letter and a note tucked indoors. It works. If it's in a building, you'll obviously have to personally mail everybody in the building if it's in a strata, but if it's detached, you can just tuck them in the doors and tuck it like you're tucking on their dash on their car in a parking lot. Okay, right? So buyer is best lead bait number 1. Just sold is lead bait number 2. Best lead bait is just sold and buyer, and lead bait number 3 would be a new listing, right? Or an invite to an open house. Okay, if you're looking at these opportunities. You can use client testimonials as spin to win opportunities. You can use buying opportunities. Write this down. How many people are promoting buying opportunities each week? Anybody promoting buying opportunities on a regular, consistent basis? So Tice, there's two things you do in this business. You promote buying opportunities and you market people's homes for sellers. Okay. Those are two things you do consistently. So let me just ask you this question. How many people watch deals and watch things come up? Real estate is one of those categories where people watch stuff and watch deals and right and that. So when you're promoting a buying opportunity, you start creating buyers and investors starting to call you. Okay. So I have one guy on my brokerage that does his pick of the week. Okay. And so he does a pick of the week and a buying opportunity each week. And now he's starting to get investors saying, you seem like you know where the deals are. You seem like you know where the opportunities are because he's doing his pick of the week and the buying opportunity. And he's creating that perception. He's having people with money and investment money coming to him by promoting those buying opportunities. He's creating that opportunity by doing it consistently through his email, through his social platform, all those things and he's generating that business opportunity, right? Does that sound like a good activity? Would you like a bunch of guys with a bunch of money and a bunch of people to call you that want to invest and buy real estate in that? Promote consistently, and then you'll be creating those opportunities, okay? Right? So this whole spin to win system is set up that what to spin is along the top and how to spin it is all the different opportunities is along the side. Okay. I wish I could spend more time with you guys, but have a look at this and set that up. And I guarantee you it'll work for each and every one of you. Okay. So Tyson, the database touch is the number one thing on your funnel for funnel number one. And this is number two of your six. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Let's continue on to the next one. All right, Jim Rohn, finish your week before your week begins. Another tool for everybody, okay? I'm going to wrap and integrate, right? I'm going to wrap up and integrate a simple tool for you guys to be able to be consistently consistent. Show of hands, how many people are consistently inconsistent? Besides me, I'm the only one that's telling the truth, consistently inconsistent. All right, we're all consistently inconsistent, you guys, okay? So I want to create the last strategy I want to share with you with your action plans for your weekly action plan is what I call your sit down Sunday. So Jim Rohn says this so eloquently. He says, you need to finish your week before your week begins. And what he means by that is on Sundays, you basically plan out your week and schedule your week so that someone else and something else can't rob you of your time and your schedule. Does that make sense to everybody on the call? So I created this tool that you're going to get from Alex called the Sit Down Sunday. Okay, the Sit Down Sunday. So it is 6 Sunday steps, 6 steps every Sunday that you're going to do. So Tice, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a list of all your leads that you have to follow up this week. Okay, so you make a list of all the names, what they want to buy, their numbers, their email address, and you make a list of all your leads that you have to follow up this week, and you put them into your calendar, when you're going to call them, what you're going to call them for, and how you're going to approach them in that, and what you're going to approach them, and you put that in your calendar first for your lead funnel follow-up. Does that make sense? That's step one. Step two, you go to the database touch, Excel database, and you pick one database touch, and you put your database touch into your calendar for the week. Okay? One database touch. Step three, you go to the spin to win, Tice, and you pick one spin to win opportunity and you put that into your schedule. Okay? That's step three. Step four, you create content. So you're putting content out. So your content could be for the first week, you'd be like, want to know the top 5 sales areas of Mississauga in 2024, message me. That could be your content, right? You put out, right? They'd be your content for the week. Then I call it a premium touch, right? So it's something like the scratch and wins or the seeds or the margarita packs or the birthday cards and that, something that you deliver the unexpected, not the expected, you deliver the unexpected, right? So a premium touch to somebody that you deliver the unexpected. There's a great book you can read. It's called The Generosity Factor. The Generosity Factor by Ken Blanchard. And he talks about the 4 T's. Every one of us has an opportunity to give one of the 4 T's, a premium touch, right? So T number 1 is your time. Give them the gift of your time to somebody. T number 2 is a touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, a hug, touch. T number two. T number three is your talents. So your personality, just listening, just checking in and seeing how they're doing, right? A check-in, right? Right? Your talents and your treasures and that. Last one is a gift, like your treasures and that. So a little something like a coffee or an opportunity that. So your time, your touch, your talents, and your treasures, right? Those are gifts that you can give to deliver that unexpected, and those are your premium touches. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. No more powerful than giving your time, a hug, a touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, your personality, your talents, your gifts, that, or a treasure or something that's a little something. Okay. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to promote your buying opportunity for the week. Okay. So Tyson, you may not know what the best deals are. So you're going to have to partner with a mentor and see how you can help somebody find and start identifying what's a good buying opportunity. So say that Ashwin has a great listing and I think it's a great deal. I'll reach out to Ashwin. I'll say, hey, Ashwin, it's Wade here. And I just noticed that, 1234 Maple Street looks like a great buy. Would you be okay if I put it out for my buying opportunity, my pick of the week? And what's Ashwin going to say? No, of course, Ashwin's going to say, yeah, thanks so much, Wade. Like, yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate you putting it out there. So that's my buying opportunity, right? So those are my 6 steps for my week: my leads, my database touch, my spin to win, my content, my premium touch, and my buying opportunity. If you even got 3 or 4 of those 6 done each week, do you like your chances of creating more business consistently by doing these 6 activities each week, right? So you start creating that sit down Sunday. The number one thing that I started with my coaching clients that they said has changed their business and changed their activity is doing this document right here, the sit down Sunday. Just so you know, there's nothing else I've taught this past 2 years that's been more powerful. Anybody that has taken the time to build their sit down Sundays and spend their time building their week and doing this activity has been consistently more consistent and having way more productive activity. And they have direction and they have a plan each week. If you go back to that gap analysis, do you have a weekly plan? This is your weekly plan right here, your sit down Sundays. Okay. So those 6 activities go first. Then you put in your lead gen next, and then you put in your showings, and then you put in your listing appointment. Then you put in your offer presentations, you're negotiating your paperwork of that. But that goes in after those first 6 activities get in your calendar first. Does that make sense? Right? So these 6 things go in first, and then these next things go in second into your calendar after. Okay? Now, the last thing, when you look at all of these and you look at each of these activities, I want to share with the strategy on efficiency. You 3D test everything. You 3D test it. You say, is this activity something that I should do? Or is this something that I should automate, systemize, or give to someone else to do? Or is it just not that important this week and I'm going to dump it? So it's called the 3D technique. So for those of you that get overwhelmed real fast, am I the only one that gets overwhelmed easily in that and just feels like they're just bogged down in that? You take your to-do list and you 3D test it. For those of you that suffer from overwhelm and getting overwhelmed and paralysis of analysis and that, this is a great strategy for you to 3D it. You look at each of them and you say, do I do it? Do I delegate it? Or do I just dump it because it's not important this week? That will minimize your anxiety and you're overwhelmed by 3D testing everything. Does that make sense to everybody on the call? Okay. 3D test it. Does Wade do it? Does Wade delegate it, automate it, systemize it? Or does Wade just like, it's not going to happen this week. There's just too much on the go and I'm going to have to dump it and come back to it next week. That's the strategy to stop from being so overwhelmed, is to 3D test everything you do on a weekly basis. Okay. If that's helpful. All right. So section 3 in your business plan, if you look at it, you've got pages 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. This is everything you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. That's everything I just covered in that last section. So you got your sit down Sundays, you got your database touches, you've got your spin to win opportunities, and you've got your lead gen funnels and that. This is what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and you're trying to become consistently consistent with your action plan. So if you look at page 25 and 24 and 25, I suggest you plan a month or 2 in advance. So here's an example of a plan, a month or two, an example of what you can do, right? So in January, this person's going to send out an email to their database and they track it. And then they're going to do a thank you letter for helping them have a successful year. And then they're going to do a postcard. And then they're going to do a geofarm market update. And then they're going to do an open house. And then they're going to do some Craigslist ads. And then they're going to do a first-time homebuyer seminar. And then they got floor duty shifts. That's their activity plan for January. Does that make sense? It's scheduled. It's clear. It's who, what, where, when, why, and how. It's tracked. It's measured. Does everybody see the benefit of having a plan at least a month or two in that written out and laid out this way? Can you see yourself being more effective if you have this kind of a marketing plan and strategy in place? Okay. That's the action plan. That's the marketing plan. That's the third section of everybody's business plan. Okay. All right. Now, the last section here is one that, oh, does anybody in the call struggle with strategic operating procedures, SOPs? Alex, I'm going to send you a copy of this. I didn't include it in the slide deck, but I'll send you this. You guys, this is a chart that you can use for creating a standard operating procedure. So I'll give you an example. When you take a listing, right? Now you write down what it is and the date that you're doing the action plan, and then who's doing it, and then each step. And you use this chart to break down each step on taking a listing. And now you have a standard operating procedure when you create that. So if you struggle with creating operating procedures, Alex, here's a great chart that'll help your team be able to create a standard operating procedure for each of their action steps. Okay? So you write down what the activity is, when the activity needs to be done, who, if it's you or someone else, who's doing the activity, and then what each step is, right? And what do you do in that? So like doing a CMA, boom, boom, boom. Step 1, step 2, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step, right? And now you create a standard operating procedure. Can anybody explain to me the benefits of strategic checklists, standard operating procedures? What's the benefit to those? Benefit number 1 is you're now consistently doing things the same way each time. Benefit number 2 is it's easy to take your standard operating procedure, your steps, and teach someone else to take it over for you. Does that make sense? Right? Right? So a lot of people struggle on how to create a standard operating procedure, but if you think about it, what's your steps for doing your sales record sheet? What's your steps for doing your listing input? What's your steps for sending out a CMA and creating a CMA? What's your steps for creating all your buyer documents? What's your steps for, right? This is a great chart, a physical chart. I'm a physical guy. I like writing things out and laying it all out and seeing it. So here's a great little chart for you to be able to help those that are struggling with their standard operating procedures and they're struggling with being consistently and doing steps in that. Now, that said, you could also ask veteran agents that have these to share with them, but they've also spent a lot of time and energy building them themselves. So respectfully, they may not be as willing to share them with you, but maybe they'll be able to help you with the steps and help you remind you what steps they have in their SOPs to help you get started. And the biggest one is that just write the first step down and then the rest of the steps get easier. It's just write the first dang step down and then the next steps get easier after that. I find it's just writing down the first thing. It's like go and pull off the old listing information on their house. Step 1. Okay, boom, there, I've got the steps there. And now I can just keep going and building from that. And you can keep tweaking it and massaging it and changing this checklist and these steps and grow it so that your SOP just gets better and better and better each year and each week and each month. Is that helpful for everybody in that struggles with their standard operating procedures and having their steps? Just a great little tool that'll help you guys. And I'll send a copy of that for you guys to be able to build your SOPs in doing that. For those people that don't have them, right? When you wing it, you get wing it results. When you have strategic operating procedures, there's a reason why McDonald's has 15 pages on how to cook a French fry in their manual. There's 15 pages, including the footprints of the steps of where you go in the store to go to the freezer and get it, whatever you want to call them. They're not fries, but the powdered little shaped little things and then walking over the thing and then how much salt. There's 15 pages on French fry cooking, because the fries are going to lure you in and take you and give you a heart attack, but they're consistently delicious and bad for you everywhere around the world. everywhere, right? That's why they have 15 pages on how to cook those darn things. Does that make sense? All right. So SOPs. All right. So next thing, budgeting and financial. So one of the hardest jobs in closing on your business planning today in event is that people understanding that they are the CEO, they are the COO, there's the CFO, they're all these hats. So this is I'm going to give you a financial lesson in budgeting 101 here for you guys, okay? So here is your income goal. Write this down, this formula, or take a picture of this, okay? Your non-negotiable personal expenses, Tyson. Your non-negotiable personal expenses, you write those down. So rent, car payments, all that, right? You write it all down, okay? And then you write down your non-negotiable business expenses, cell phone, gas, car payments, office fees, things like that, right? You write those down. Then you add profit, and that is your gross income goal for 2025, okay? You have no idea how many people don't know what their non-negotiable personal expenses are, their non-negotiable business expenses, and don't have an income goal high enough to even cover those expenses. Does that make sense? So you figure out what your personal non-negotiable expenses are, and I'll send you a spreadsheet for this. And your non-negotiable business expenses are, I'll send you a spreadsheet. You add profit because you want to have food with your meals next year, guys, right? Right? That would be helpful. And that is your income goal for 2025, right? That's the formula for your finances, right? So in your booklet, you'll see a chart for business expenses and a chart for personal expenses, and you've got to go through all of that and know all of that. My dad did a really good job of teaching me on how to manage our businesses and how to manage that. So I've always known what my minimum personal expenses are and my business expenses are, and knowing what I need to earn to create the lifestyle and the opportunity I want in that. I always have been aware of that. And everybody heard the term pay yourself first. Has everybody heard that term from the richest man in Babylon and all these different philosophers? That there's the terminology that you say pay yourself first. So my dad, when I first started, we would only take a draw every 2 weeks to cover our personal expenses and our business expenses. We'd take a draw, and we drew that so that I brought a check home and paid my bills every 2 weeks and brought a check home every 2 weeks. What do you think that would do for my self-esteem by bringing home a draw and a check every 2 weeks? For 32 years, I've always brought a check home for every 2 weeks for 32 years in real estate business. My wife, God bless her, never asks about how the market is or how everything is, because I bring home that check to cover our minimum nut every 2 weeks, right? To do that. And that just changes. Now I'm not trying to I'm just focusing on taking care of clients because my draw is coming to me every 2 weeks to cover my business and my personal expenses. For those of you that say, well, wait, I don't have an income. Well, full disclosure, Tyson, I'm going to share everybody a story here. So I was the same age as Tyson, I'm guessing, when I started this business, and I screwed up my credit rating so bad that I couldn't get any credit whatsoever when I started in real estate. I got my mom and dad to co-sign for a business line of credit, and that's what I used to draw my salary and my expenses for every 2 weeks was a business line of credit, so that when we sold stuff and business came in, I paid off the line of credit, but I kept the draw coming in for my minimum expenses every 2 weeks. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? One of the little secrets that most people don't tell you is that in the leaner months, a lot of people use their business lines or their business savings to draw from during the slower, leaner months of the year. That's the secret of how to survive. So, Tice, if you haven't, try and go see if you can set up like as a line of business line of credit and that, so that you could use that to cover your expenses and your living expenses while you're trying to build your business, and then pay that off as your sales and your listings come through in that throughout the year. Does that make sense to you? Right? So doing all that. Another couple tips for you is putting everything on a travel credit card for expenses, so you can take a holiday each year on your expenses, right? For points. That's another little nugget for you. And then another nugget for finances is separate your personal banking and your business banking at two separate institutions. So my personal You don't know where my office building is in Kelowna here, but on my personal side, it's at TD, and there's a branch on the other side of my office building at TD, and there's a Royal at the other side. So my business is at Royal, and my TD is at my personal, and I keep them separate, and I keep them at two different places so that I'm not integrating and mixing the business stuff and the income for the business and my personal stuff, and that I separate them and have that. So two different banks, two different accounts, two different cards, two different everything to try and keep them so that they're separated. And then the last little nugget is how many people have a bookkeeper? So I have a little lady that I found 20 years ago in Kelowna that does all of my sales receipts and my bookkeeping for me. So Cher does a quarter, each quarter, she'll take my statements because I run everything through cards, and she'll take my receipt chits and she'll put them all into scan and put them all into Excel for my accountant for $200 a quarter. She's been doing it for 20 years. So she has all of my expenses, all of my income, all of it in Excel. And every 4 months, I give her my statements and I give her my receipts. And she creates an Excel P&L and expenses and income expenses and a profit and loss in that for me, a little Excel sheet for my accountant, so I can track and measure what's going on and what's coming in and keep track of that. And it's only $200 a quarter for Cher, who's a single mom bookkeeper that does them for me. And she's been doing it for me for 20 years now. And game changer, right? All I got to do is bring my chits and bring my receipts and bring my statements, and she creates that Excel sheet for me every quarter in that. How many people would rather let Cher do that for $200 than to sit there for hours trying to figure out all your receipts and all your stuff in that? She even breaks out the PST, GST, HST. She breaks it into categories for meals and entertainment and income and business expenses. She puts it all in Excel for my bookkeeper and that, and it's all done in that. How many people like that idea? So again, there's people out there that'll do that for really. Now, some of you may do it yourselves and use apps and use AI and that. That's great. But just little nuggets for you to helping with the expense management side of things, right? So last little nugget is a financial audit. So every November, I call my service providers like TELUS and Rogers and call those people, and I ask if that's the best that they can do, right? And I do all that. And a lot of people ask me, Wade, like, how much should I be spending and how much correlating to my income in that? And my answer to you is that 33% of your expenses to income ratio is a good ratio. Does that make sense? So Tice, you're going to spend and invest $33,000 in your expenses, and you're going to try and net 66,000 profit. Does that make sense to you? So my friend, you've got $3,000 or $2,500 a month to invest into your business on a $100,000 budget in that, because some agents spend little or no money back into their business to generate opportunity, and some spend too much. So for some of you, you've got to look at it and say, am I over that 33% expenditure to income, or am I under that? And am I spending too little, or am I spending too much? And how do I get that in line, right? And so doing a financial audit and doing an expense and looking at those and running those P&Ls and running those expense charts and that is an incredibly important thing, because you don't want to get caught. And the last thing, Tyson, that you don't know is that you're going to pay tax on the money that you earned from the previous year. So a lot of people get caught having good years and then not having great years, and they don't realize that they have to make their tax installments based on their previous year income. So Alex, you can relate to this. Everybody did so well in 21, 22, and 23, and we're not doing as well in 23, 24. Some are, right? But the reality is that I'm paying tax on those really good years previous the next year. And so you don't hold enough back on tax. So every time I take money personally, I pay the tax at the same time as I take the draw. That's another way in which I stay out of trouble. So if I take the money, then I always pay that portion of tax, income tax, at the same time I take the draw. So I'm not worried about where my tax bill is coming and my money's coming in the spring of next year, if that helps you guys out on that financial tip. So that's the financing side of things. I'm going to close with this last story. So Robin Sharma, great author, wrote the book, the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and the 5 a.m. Club and that. Robin Sharma shared this story. There's a gentleman that walks this job site, and he's walking around, and it's a site where they're making clay bricks. And everybody's forming these clay bricks in these little frames and building bricks and this brick on this work site in this plant. And he walks around and this one person's working on this bricks and they've got a few bricks and they're not doing too much activity in that. And he just says, excuse me, but what is it that you do? And that person shares with the superintendent. He says, well, I build bricks. I make bricks for a living. And the guy says, oh, interesting. Walks around, goes to the next person, and they've got quite a big stack and a bigger stack, and they're working a little bit faster than everybody else in the thing, and says, excuse me, but what is it that you do? And that person says, well, I build walls. I'm in the brick wall building business, right? And he goes, oh, interesting. And then all of a sudden, way back on the site, there's this person that's singing and laughing, and they've got this huge stack of clay bricks made up in that. And they've completely out bricked everybody else on the job site. And the super walks back there and says, but can you tell me, what is it that you do? And this person's so excited. And they look at him and says, I build cathedrals. I'm in the cathedral building business. And the moral of that story the story is that, guys, is that you can look at 2025 as you can just make it look like they're real estate and you're in the brick building business, or you can look at it as a brick wall business, or you can get really excited about 2025 and think about that you're in the business of building cathedrals. So I hope and pray, you guys, from your business plan experience today, that you got a couple of nuggets, that you got some clear paths in that. Break it down into 4 sections that and make 2025 a year of building cathedrals. And I hope and pray that you guys have an awesome, awesome year next year. And I'll make sure that I get all the tools into Alex's hands and get all of these things in there. And the biggest thing is that don't let these ideas, don't let these strategies go to waste. Promise yourself, not me, promise yourself that you'll implement and execute each of them, each one at a time, just one at a time, right? Live above that line. Implement, execute, get stuff done. Repeat, be consistently consistent, guys. And I know that 2025 is going to be a lot of years, best years ever in that. So thank you for having me, my friend Alex, and thanks for the team for doing all the efforts in that. And I hope everybody got a lot of information and learned a little bit different of why you do things in business planning, and look forward to crushing 2025, you guys. Thanks again for having me.
Wade, once again, you over deliver in everything you do. Thank you so much. There's a lot here. I took a lot of notes as well. I see other people are also. Tyson, I think you were the center of attention. Don't get used to it. And you can't do any of this stuff until you're licensed, just so you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome. You can do a lot of planning, that's for sure. Wade, please send me all that stuff. I'm going to share with everybody as well as this recording.
Yes.
And I would suggest, number one, for everyone who's here, so many people skip this step every year. And they start thinking about it at the end of the first quarter when they've been kind of floundering a little bit and trying to figure out what they're going to do next year.
For sure.
I think you're way ahead of it. There's a lot of content here, and I think what I would do is pick one item at a time and try and implement something that you really that really resonated with you, and that you feel you wouldn't mind waking up an hour early to do this stuff or staying an hour late to do it. Stuff that's feels right. And I would just take it in little bites and just keep adding to what you're doing. There's a whole bunch here. I would listen to the recording again. Give it a week and just listen to it undistracted. And I think you'll find that there's a whole bunch of gold nuggets there that Wade, I actually think he hit a few for us too. So you'll have to listen again to hear some of them. And so Wade, once again, thank you, everybody.
My pleasure, everyone.
Have a great day and looking forward to a wonderful 2025.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Take care. All the best, everybody.